Hey everybody, welcome to Frame Trap. It is post E3 time, and I have a cold. I might be coughing, might be sniffling a little bit. A consequence of just running around for 5 days, 6 days. How long is it? It's all a blur.
66.
Are we alive right now?
Yeah, just shy of a full week.
Yeah.
68,000 germs in the air.
A lot of shaking hands, a lot of close proximity to a lot of bodies. Yeah. No, I woke up. You ever just wake up and you're sick?
Yes.
You know, like there's not a build up to it. It's just a before and after. Mm-hmm. I just woke up and was like, nope, I can't do anything today. Yeah. So that's how I wanted to start this podcast. Is how you guys doing?
Good.
Post E3. What were the after effects?
The ambulance is coming to pick you up.
Yeah. Someone's sick out there.
Yep. That's me.
I got wiped. I got wiped from an illness that I had not expected, which was like party screaming. I just like attended so many social gatherings and just really loud environments that like my throat was shot. And
Wait, were you like getting drunk, screaming like, "Yeah, easy Ella, let's go"?
I mean, it was that. That was
great.
Typically until later, but just like I'm this close to the person. I can't. You have to speak directly in my ear. I cannot hear a word you're saying. Even at the show, just standing outside of a booth, it's just like, oh, okay. Like bumped into somebody or like talking to a fan. It's like we have to scream at each other, kinda. And that for 6 days. And that was scary because like the day after I was like, okay, my throat's all right, I'll just have some lozenges and I'll be okay. And woke up the next day like, oh no, like it's still there. And like the next day, like, damn.
Yeah.
Still gone.
Oh man.
It's back. Feels good.
How did you de-stress after E3?
Good old manual labor helps
Oh.
because just taking down the set and cleaning all that up and
Yeah.
and it's nice because anytime we do like anything big in here, we got to move stuff around. It's like a nice opportunity to like clean this room up a little bit, and so it was like nice organizing things a little bit more. And
I remember after our day 4 impressions, you were starting to we'd finished shooting and you were starting to take stuff down. I was like, hey Brian, you need any help? He's like, no man, I'm just gonna put on Planet Earth and tear down some equipment. Like you were excited about it. So how about you, Huber? How you doing?
The first day I watched wrestling.
Yeah.
Caught up on wrestling. Turn that on. Usually I'll skip through some of the filler, like, whatever it may be. If I'm not feeling like a rivalry, I'll just be like, skip that, catch the highlights, whatever.
Yeah.
Just sat down, watched it all. Cover to cover.
When you say all, how many hours are we talking?
It was a Raw and SmackDown, so it was 5 hours.
Okay.
So it was like one of the days. And then the next day I chilled out on just a big, meaty game that we're going to talk about soon.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Did either one of you... You said your throat was all messed up, your voice. Did either one of you get sick or?
Nope.
Okay, nice.
I dodged it. Dodged it big. Last year I got sick. This year I dodged it.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, feels good.
My sleep schedule's all messed up. For a while there, I was staying up until 5 a.m. and then going to bed and getting like 5 or 6 hours of sleep, and that was terrible. And I finally got on a regular schedule, and then E3 messed the whole thing up.
Oh, yeah.
And resetting your sleep schedule...
It's hard.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, and it's annoying.
I take melatonin sometimes now, though. Just pop a little melatonin.
Maybe that's what I need to do.
Yep. Sell it at Trader Joe's, Ralph's.
Get the meds.
Yeah.
Get the meds out.
Melatonin, it's not like crazy drugs or anything. It's just a little... It like tells your body it's ready for sleep.
Yeah. The problem that I worry about is oversleeping, missing something important in the morning.
Absolutely.
That's all. Just some anxiety about that. But time for video games. Brandon, what have you been playing?
the opposite of sleeping, video games. I finished Injustice 2, and I didn't finish Injustice 1. I finished DC versus Mortal Kombat.
Yep.
Or Mortal Kombat versus DC Comics Universe or something.
Mortal Kombat versus DC.
I thought it had a really long title. And just have yet to find something in Injustice 2 I don't like. I loved the story, loved the characters, like definitely found favorites. Was surprised that of the fighting games I have finished, and there are a few that I'm like, yeah, I'll finish this campaign, because usually most times I can't. Like, a game is just too difficult. I remember, like, way back in the day, like, being like, I like Street Fighter 2. I'd like to finish this campaign as some of these characters, but, like, I just can't do it. But, yeah, I love the story, and was surprised that I jumped into the multiverse after that, and just played a ton of that, too. It was like... It's rare that I'm like, I love this so much that I'm going to find my two favorite characters are Catwoman and Wonder Woman, and just focusing on them and knowing that I'm good at them, like, from the campaign, and being like, I just kind of the way I naturally want, where I want the abilities to be placed, and how I find myself just moving automatically tends to fit these two characters. And And so, yeah, a lot of times I think about fighting games, it's like, I'm just not good enough. I just need to find the character that's quote unquote best and just get good at that character. So it's fun to like be playing this game and be like, I don't care if Catwoman's the best. She's just fun. Like, it's just fun to like flip around.
It's like, a Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
I don't care if he's good or not. He's just so fun to use.
Swamp Thing's move animations are just so incredibly
Yeah,
satisfying.
Swamp Thing just floating, like, that's unsettling. There's something about, like, the game just broke. What? Yeah. He's like, no.
He's crouching, he's in the ground.
So cool.
Yeah, kicking logs at people. It's great. So, do you think Injustice 2 is something that you're just going to... Maybe you'll do a few more multiverse things and then you'll drop, or is there enough there for you that maybe you'll keep picking away at it throughout the rest of 2017?
I've been tempted, to go back and level up. One thing that they do that is extremely tempting that I'm just like, oh, dirty pool, was when you finish some characters' sections in the campaign, and I don't know if it's based on like how well you do or if you just automatically get it, but for some of them you unlock a level 20 item.
Yeah,
it's just
that
automatic.
like you finish the campaign at like level 6 max, even for like characters you play a lot as, like Superman or Batman, and I was just like, that level 20 Catwoman whip is like, like I'm just tempted just to get, and I know like 15 to 20 is gonna be rough. Like that'll be like
It's not too bad.
It's not too bad. Like,
No. It's not bad at all.
One through like just jumping in afterwards and only having Catwoman be like level 2, like I got her to 6 or 7 and enjoyed that a lot. Like enjoyed Multiverse, and I think one of the things that's really clever about Multiverse and accentuates. Also wants you to get into the customization options is the first couple characters that were thrown at me were like bizarre. They were like clearly like the opposite color palettes of what I was expecting, just really weird combinations of items put together. And so it's neat to like have that for you to discover not only how different the dimensions are like in the lore, but what it's capable of with the customization options.
Regarding the story mode with Injustice 2, it kind of entered this new space for me that a fighting game hasn't before, where I think, personally speaking, I think it's my favorite of the NetherRealm stories. And I think it's really well presented. And because it's so well presented, it kind of, I was like, okay, this is good for a fighting game story. Now I'm just going to analyze it as a story on its own. And I think once I got a little bit more aggressive with it, not just being like, okay, for a fighting game, this is really good, but digging into it, there were like some character motivations that I wasn't completely happy with, and just certain character threads that I think could have been focused on a little bit longer. And it's hard, I think, when you have such a big roster and you're trying to include as many characters as possible while also having this overarching story. And so I got frustrated with myself with my own complaints, where it's like, how much should I be expecting out of this thing, basically? Because I think with what they're trying to accomplish in the format that they're trying to accomplish it in, because they also just want you to play as a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So there are gameplay considerations as well.
Like
I don't know.
3 or 4 fights per character and then move on to the next.
How did you feel about that here? Because we talked about like Wonder Woman specifically being a frustrating character.
Yeah.
Did that dampen your enthusiasm overall, or
no? Because there were so many just cool little moments, like with Harley Quinn and Joker and Flash and Reverse Flash, just like all these little moments sprinkled throughout that just kept me like happy and smiling the whole way through, and just seeing the uneasy alliance of Batman and Superman and getting into that type of story. I remember when we streamed it with Kyle, he's like, yeah, I just don't like that Superman is so like unlikable in the campaign. Like the game doesn't give you any reason to root for him at all. And I said, that's what's cool, is like this is what it is. This is a bad Superman who's in it for his own interests and wants to rebuild the world in his own image. There's millions, basically, not millions, but there's so many Batman and Superman and DC stories. I thought on its own, this was a cool story to tell.
Well, it's also like about being a comic book fan for this many years and looking back on like how many times have we been through the same adventures.
Sure.
And it's like, so I think like the Superman in a subtle way, like I think Superman is kind of like his behavior, and this has been done in the comics before, is like kind of a play on that fandom of just like, yeah, what if you just kill Zaz? Oh well, what now? And like, oh, you're like, you can't do that in comics, and like, it's like kind of like, I definitely feel, and it's one of the things that brings me more joy than anything. Like, I love seeing a creator, like, having Ridley Scott go back to the Alien series and being like, fingers crossed. But it's like seeing some company like Rocksteady just come in and like, whoa, do they like Batman? Oh my goodness, and like seeing, Boone and the team at NetherRealm, like, we care about this a lot. Like, we really want this. Like, seeing more reverence was done in Injustice 2 to Green Arrow than anything, than any animated series and anything. Like how they're like that couple, like how they were portrayed, like how creepy it was, like other things that they did in the story, and like how they're brought back in later moments. And just that's just one of like characters. And like I think the thing with Wonder Woman is like she was unfortunately just labeled. Like, we have to have someone close to Superman who is kind of a curmudgeon, who is, like, just unshakable, even though in some scenes you're like, come on, you're being an idiot right now, you know?
Yeah.
But, it's like, at the end of the day, there were a couple moments where we were, like, starting a fight where I was like, okay, this is a video game fight, and others where I'm like, oh, I didn't know the cutscene was going to be over, and it's like, I think that was, to try to do that 150 times in a row is, like, asking a lot of any storyteller.
This is something that Tekken 7 does as well, where you're bouncing between so many different characters. Going through it, Brandon, was that frustrating to you at all, where you would just kind of get the feel for somebody, and then suddenly you have to switch to another character with a whole totally different move list? Was that a problem for you?
I thought the difficult. I finished it, you know, and I didn't change difficulties. I literally just, you know, Batman walked up to his computer and I was like, go story. Like I just jumped right in because I'm like, I want to try like whatever difficulty you expect me to be at, and I finished it at that, and so. Black Adam, I think, was one of the... Black Adam and Aquaman were the only two characters. They're so fast. I was just like, damn it. And like, yeah, Adam does a lot of like shocking and a lot like I would walk right into whatever like he was doing. But no, I didn't really have that. I think the only thing that made me sad were there were characters like Arrow and Lantern that I was like, I mean, I can't wait to jump into Lantern, and I was like, he's a little slow. I'm like, I'm not a big fan of characters that hover. Like, there's something that like doesn't like the weight
Hover,
of having someone standing and jumping like really helps me understand like the weight of like how much damage I'm going to do with attacks and stuff like that. It's just easier to read.
Yeah.
And so for Lantern, like a lot of his attacks, strong or light, seem to have the same amount of emphasis. You know, so it's just tough to like get a sense of like to react to something automatically. And I was like, I thought I was gonna like Lantern, and then Catwoman, like the last character I thought I was gonna love, just like felt.
Catwoman is so much fun in that
just
game.
naturally felt great.
Yeah.
God,
I liked Green Lantern though because just doing a combo and then like flipping them over your head with the ring and then doing that again. And, yeah, I thought that was a ton of fun.
Defensive stuff is something I need to get more of. Like he's got that wall, and I'm just like, I would never remember to do that. Like the action that takes to make that happen, I would never be fast enough to make that happen. Once I saw danger coming, I would just like jump. Like a block is about the most I could do. But that's why Catwoman's just all offensive. It's good times.
Yeah, she is.
I've been playing a little bit of Injustice 2 online, and this is not a thing unique to Injustice 2. It's a lot of games, but when you're in the lower ranks and you just see somebody, when I see somebody that's immediately trying to win in the cheapest way possible, it's fine every once in a while. Yeah. But when you get a string of like 3 or 5 people where it's just like you are just taking the easiest path to victory, and it's not that I can't beat you, it's just kind of the process of going through that path to beat you gets a little bit tedious.
For sure.
Like
shots.
Again, another thing, like in Hearthstone, if I play like multiple Pirate Warriors in a row, it's just it's just the repetition of you trying to do the cheapest thing possible.
For sure.
Gets a little bit tiresome.
It's pretty funny. They added a Wi-Fi notifier.
I love that. That's
cool.
So smart. Yes.
It shows you if someone's on Wi-Fi.
Yes.
So you can back out. You don't want to play someone with a bad connection. I think that's really smart. They patched that in.
But Injustice 2, that multiverse, that's the thing that I'm going to remember. Like,
I love it. It's like an RPG.
Are you still doing multiverse stuff? You just check in and do events? Or?
So I'm going to come back in July for Sub-Zero. Launches in July.
Oh, that's the other thing too. Yeah, added characters. I'm all over that. Yeah, if they throw somebody else in, whether it's from Mortal Kombat or the DC universe.
Either of you played Red Hood yet?
I haven't really touched Red Hood. No.
Okay.
So.
Oh no,
yeah. New character.
Sub-Zero though.
Sub-Zero, that's the one. That's the one you're on the hook for.
So pumped.
Yeah.
I want to immediately have him fight Captain Cold. See what he says. See the dialogue.
Sure.
Yeah. And then Mr. Freeze. See what they say. I'm really hoping they put Watchmen characters in. That's been the rumor for a long time. Please give me Rorschach. I think Rorschach would fit so well into this game.
What's Rorschach's super?
Like his circle move or his L1R1?
The
L1R1?
full meter, yeah.
he just breaks your bones.
That's it?
Just like chop in the neck and like punch in the gut, like Liu Kang style, but
Yeah.
like slower and brutal.
Okay.
Yeah.
He just breaks your bones.
He just breaks your bones.
I like
Just
it.
really hard punches and chops.
Brandon, outside of Injustice 2, what else have you been playing?
I've been playing. Did you write down what I said? I don't remember what the other games I've been playing.
Overwatch.
Overwatch, right? Because I streamed
Yeah.
that the other day. Played Overwatch for the first time ever.
First time! It's awesome.
Somebody was like, Brandon is playing Overwatch, and I went, really? And I checked, I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. How did this happen?
Yeah, I never like rejected Overwatch. It's
No,
just,
no,
there's just
I know.
a lot of games, you know. And
It's
I
just
never,
been it's been so long.
and
that
I never, just never got around to it. And I was thinking about like, when am I going to stream? And I just went through the PlayStation Store, which is like boop, 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 like all the way down. I was thinking about like, okay, maybe I'll back out. And then there it was the Origins edition. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. Because Blizzard has never made a game that I thought was like poor. You know, that I was like, what? You call that a game? Like they're just I trust that developer. They've made a lot of entertainment that I've enjoyed greatly over the years. I loved it. It always struck me of what a good job they did marketing that game, because I was endeared to those characters, and I didn't really know them that well, and I certainly had never played as them, but I was just like,
Yeah.
I love Winston. I love I love the way he's portrayed. Like I love his abilities and the way he's animated and the voice and everything. So yeah, it just felt like a natural fit kind of jumping in. And I've seen, so many of you play it. And so it was like weird, like putting that game on and being like, oh, it just feels like home. It feels like a very comfortable game to just jump into.
Is Winston your guy? Is that who you...
The first character they picked for me, and I can't remember who the first person I played as, but then I played as Hanzo. Got a couple headshots, felt good about that.
Brandon Jones and the bow.
And then played Soldier, because Soldier was in the training segment. I did that first.
Yeah.
And then played Reinhardt. He's got the big shield.
Yep.
And then played as him because I wanted to just try something different. Played as McCree. And it was funny because a lot of people in chat before, they were like, all right, who's Jones going to play as? And like 99% of people were like McCree, obviously. And I was like, oh yeah, McCree. I hadn't thought about McCree. And dug him a lot. Was not rocking that L trigger right away. And the people, I was like, doesn't he have like a real fast thing? They were like, L trigger. I'm like, oh, there it is. Okay. But because he was a little bit slower than I was expecting, but like his shots did a lot more damage than I initially realized. Like, like I can actually just get 3 or 4 good shots on somebody, and just with the right, and take them out. But yeah, it's. I mean, we want to talk about both of these games, like multiplayer games, Injustice and Overwatch, that you're expected to play whether you're playing by yourself or whether you're playing like with a bunch of people. Although Overwatch you can only play online. Mm-hmm. And I think the customization options are cool, but like, because there is a single player component, and because I do get a stat boost, there is something else there. There is that a little extra desire to like when Green Lantern shoulders get a little more like built out. It's like, yeah, it's not just like, oh, I'm wearing a Halloween outfit now. It actually is just more attractive to me. And so like I could see myself wanting to go back in and play Injustice 2 and feel that character get more powerful and not just look different. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's like the main thing with a game like Overwatch, and in a lot of ways Call of Duty, which is a franchise I love, that like I've never really stayed with one of those games throughout like a season. It's usually like a month or two. I'll play multiplayer, and then that's about it.
So are you saying that the gear in Injustice 2, because there's sort of that physical mark of progression, like you're a little bit stronger in this way in Injustice 2 because of the gear. With that not being in Overwatch, you're less incentivized to.
And that's nothing against Overwatch.
No,
it's
I'm just
like
curious about
those games where it's just kind of like
round based.
Yeah, I used to do. I think I said this one time on a show. We used to do Pop Warner football.
Yeah.
And we would do an exercise where we'd set up 4 cones, so there's 3 lanes. And one side would have the ball, and the other side would have to tackle the guy running, and we would just get in a circle and just like smack heads, for like an hour. Mm-hmm. And I think like I remember doing it one time. I was like, I don't want to do football anymore. I got a headache. It's like I don't know if this is the way I want to spend my afternoon. And like in some ways, there are like some multiplayer games where I'm like, this is a lot of fun, and it's fun to try to evade that guy and see if he can like tackle me. But at the end of the day, it's like when I step away from that, like I was a little better at the game. That's about it. That's like about like the only thing that I've gained from that.
Yeah.
And so if just like anything else, some kind of story tie-in or some kind of like you're saying like like progression that you can feel outside of just visually looking different.
I mean, does the ranking system not sort of fill that for you because you're not going to have
I'm just
enough
never
time?
that good. Yeah. I'm just never that. Yeah. It seems like something that'll be so fleeting that like I will put in an amount of effort to get an outcome, and then I'll wake up the next morning and I'll be down the list. And,
what was your dopamine level when you cracked some loot packs?
Oh, that was hilarious too, because I'm like, all right, let's go into the first match, and like I was like, loot. And like,
Yeah.
like before the match, and they were like, Joe, it's like, loot's everything. They're like,
Yeah.
loot's the. I don't know if it was one of the allies or somebody in chat that joked that they're like, some people just loot. They don't even play Overwatch. They'll just
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even
just
play. I just
drop
open the
$5 a
boxes.
week.
That's what happened with Ian. Like he's not playing Overwatch, but he saw the new Diva skin and was like,
Yeah.
I have to have it.
And that's the thing. It's like the music and the voice acting and the the animation and style and everything. It's just so dynamite across the board. Just putting like tattoos and stickers on stuff. It's like, yeah, a very pretty game and a very very easy game to just jump into and enjoy.
You say that you'd never be good enough, but I don't know. I've seen you play GoldenEye.
Yeah, just
like
put
there's,
some
there's a
Jones.
competitive Jones in there.
Oh yeah, and I'm definitely good at identifying those games. Even like with COD, it's kind of funny to like play COD one year, like Black Ops 3. I was like, yeah, and then like I played like World War II at E3 and got like ass handed to me. Like I don't know if it was just the people I was playing against, but I was like, I don't think I'm gonna be as good at this type of COD.
Yeah.
But it's like not to like try to get sympathy from like getting free games and getting to go to all these events and getting the exposure that we do. But like one of the things about having this job and trying to cover as many games as I can is like I can't really invest in that one game, because I would have to. I think if I was to do that publicly and be like, to be honest, like on the next Frame Trap, if I'm still like Injustice 2 and you're like, really? That's all you've been playing? Like, have you been playing any tournaments or something? Like, you just kind of expect like, how good are you at that game now? that I'd really have to double down on something to like be competitive. I mean, you were that way with Hearthstone, and that definitely weighed on you. Like that just like I gotta get. I want to be the very best. It's like
you're very close to opening up a
Right.
hole that I don't want to go down.
So I don't even want to like get into the room where that hole is like that.
How about a game of Gwent?
And so I often wonder if like I had gotten into television production or film production or something else or done theater or whatever. Like would I just play 2 games a year? Would I literally just have been playing WoW this whole time? And like that and really not much else. That and some mobile and like maybe one console. Probably would only own an Xbox or PS4. Like I don't know if I'd buy both.
Alternate universe Jones.
Yeah, I think about that Jones all the time.
I've run into this a lot recently, where there are a lot of games in multiple genres where I say to myself, I am either not as knowledgeable about this as I want to be, or not as good as this as I want to be, and it's because we just have to go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing, and doing special streams has helped with that. Like, I really, really, really like fighting games, and it still bums me out how inexperienced and my lack of knowledge with it, and how just not good I am. And that, like, Ben's Dojo, while I'm not there yet, has been so great, where it's like, no, like 2 hours every week for these 2 games, this is something where I'm going to get better at this. Is that something you'd ever want to do with Overwatch, or do you not feel compelled to do something like that? You haven't found
It's not
that
a fire
game yet.
that burns in me.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't know if I got
Destiny
shamed. I don't know if I got
2,
shamed as a
Jones.
child.
Is
Do you think-
Destiny
Yeah,
the
but
fire?
Even like the PvP. Well, that's another good thing too. Is that like a lot of competitive games, what'll keep me playing more is how not bad I feel when I lose. And like I think like I remember talking about StarCraft back in the day. Some people were like, "We should get into that," and I'm like, I feel so stupid when I lose that game. It's so frustrating. And he was like, "That's hilarious because I don't." He's
Yeah.
like, "At all," and I was
That's
like,
me, yeah.
"That's weird. That's like an interesting line there." And like, when I'm Catwoman and like Bane beats the crap out of me, I still enjoy it a little bit. Like there's
Right.
still that fan in me that's like, I just love being a part of this world. And I took my licks, and well deserved, because that person was better than me, or that AI like got the better of me in that one moment. But yeah,
It's just curious to me what triggers our obsessions and what doesn't. Because there are definitely times where I've seen you kind of go down the rabbit hole, like beyond just what was required for work. I think you felt that a little bit with Final Fantasy XIV. Unfortunately, the realities of the job did push you away from that. And then Dragon Quest Builders.
now, that is a hole that you're opening right
Right,
there.
yeah.
Because that's a continuation of playing 11 too. It's like
Right.
I was committed to both of those games emotionally, like financially, like.
Do you think it's just sort of your immediate circle of friends? The more into something that they are, the more likely you are to go down that hole?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to qualify like that game, that like personal obsession game, where it's just like, because I think we all have that, and it's funny that we try in some cases to like mask that from each other. We're just like, oh no, I'm working right here, and it's like, right,
Right,
okay.
yeah.
Like, I think your work on that one ended, but cool. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, but you never know when I'm on a frame trap, and I might have to talk about it. That's the thing about this show. It's
Right.
like, this show will justify all sorts of dumb
It's an
games that I'm
enabler.
playing.
Yeah, it gives you an excuse for sure.
I gotta say something on frame trap.
Do you think all of the allies have that game Where,
I think all gamers have that game. I think that's whether it's a guilty pleasure or it's just something. Portal Knights. I was like, oh no, I'm enjoying this game way more than I should right now. Put this game down, Jones.
Going back to Overwatch, so it's been out for a while. You're playing it for the first time. Did you have that terrible sense of like, oh man, everybody's figured all of this out and what is going on? Just sort of that bewilderment, like stepping into the deep end too quickly?
A little bit. What I like about Overwatch, and I think this plays to the game's movement, how like characters move very differently. Like some of the characters, like Spider-Man in that game, some of the characters, Hanzo can just run up stuff. That like it's not that hard to catch somebody looking in complete opposite direction. It's not that hard to catch somebody walking into a room being like, "Phew, escaped that." Oh crap! It just walks like right into you. And like I think they did a good job of making that game chaotic enough that like if you get in there and there's not too much going on. It's like really 4 things I got to keep in my mind that I can do. And some of those cooldowns are pretty severe. So like there were some moves where I'm like, cool, I don't have to think about that move for like a minute now. Okay. And I think it really just took me like one match to get like, got it. Okay, I got those abilities. And then it was like, I know I'm going to catch one person with their pants down and get a couple of nice victories out of this.
I really think that's the secret to Overwatch's success, where
that Blizzard magic.
Right. Like
everything's so accessible.
If you pick Reinhardt and you just successfully shield your team from damage one time in the match, like that feels really good.
Visually, that makes sense. Where the camera is, how big that shield is,
and it's saying like the numbers are popping up. It's like you're blocking all of this, and you feel good. You may not necessarily kill anybody, or you may have only done that job right once, but you still had your moment. Yeah. That's important. Huber, I want to talk to you about Overwatch.
Yeah.
And I actually can loop myself into this too. You and I were like really big advocates for Overwatch. We were so excited, got so into it, and we don't play hardly at all.
No.
Why? What? I think there's something about Overwatch that you've just kind of shrugged your shoulders at.
Yeah, Jones touched on it when he was talking about progression. Yeah. And going back to Injustice to level up your gear and your stats, and the Counter-Strike style of Overwatch, where it is basically just self-contained rounds aside from climbing the ladders. Like if it's a game where I'm either all in or I'm kind of not in at all, where if I'm all in, I'm going to be climbing those ladders, but if I'm not dedicating my life to climbing those ladders, then what am I doing other than playing like 1 or 2 miscellaneous rounds at a time?
So what about
that's kind of I was just in a weird void where it was like I don't have enough time to commit all in, and I don't feel like I'm getting enough out of just playing a little bit on the side.
I feel like you're hitting it, because that was the same thing to me, where it's like I'm not ready to commit to really giving a crap about the ranking, like climbing the ladders, but at the same time I don't want to just do a couple matches. However, the argument and when I have done spats of Overwatch play, it's been I'm gonna play until I level up and get that loot box. I open the loot box or whatever I get. Fine. Is that not enough satisfaction for you? You just don't care enough because it's purely cosmetic?
But the thing is though is I only have like 4 or 5 characters I'm obsessed with, and usually I only love like 1 or 2 skins for each of those characters.
Right.
So I got that really cool Reinhardt skin where it's like the no helmet and the scar. Like I got that so early.
Sure.
It's like, all right, I'm going to use this till the end of time. Like nothing is going to possibly be better for me than this awesome old veteran Reinhardt skin. So it's like there.
But you spent money on that to get there.
Oh yeah. So dropped a little bit of cash.
Do you think it would be more enjoyable for you if you just would have said, "Hey, I'm just going to keep playing until I get that stuff that I want"?
Yeah, I wish like the way of microtransactions and putting money into even cosmetic items wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
But, I put like $50 in total, I think.
Sure.
Not including the cost of the game, so it is what it is.
Do you think Overwatch is a game we're going to be talking about in 2018? Us Easy Allies, not necessarily gaming at large, but us,
I think
this
so.
Group of people.
I think so. Blizzard's history, even Overwatch's history with events. Absolutely, there's going to be some epic event in 20. Yeah. There's going to be some kind of event, whether that's a single player, who knows? They haven't ruled it out, or if it's another type of co-op event, because those are really fun. Like the Halloween one and the robot one are, when those happen, I do hop back in.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you, and I'm excited to see what that next big thing is. Brendan, there was one last thing that we have on your list. You're like, we can talk about this, and you lit up.
I was like, we can talk about TV shows?
Yeah,
I forgot.
You're so excited.
I recently discovered that Batman the Animated Series is on Amazon Prime. And I was like, oh. I'm like,
is all of it on there?
I haven't gotten through all. There's 4 parts. There's 4 volumes.
4 volumes.
Okay.
And I love that, like, one of them's like VOL.2, and then the other one's like Volume 3. I'm like, come on, people. Like, let's get organized here.
I'm surprised you don't have the DVDs?
I do, but again,
It's
taking them out,
access,
popping them in.
For sure.
Plus, they're like in storage almost at this point because I don't know where those wound up with Easy Allies moving in.
For sure.
And it was just, I don't know, just sitting on the shelf. I'm funny about DVDs. Like, I'm very real. I just love streaming. It's so easy. Like, even if I'm like hunting, even if like there have been movies I'm like looking through on like HBO being like, please have it because I don't want to go find the DVD right now. You know, like, and it just all being there and being able to stream from like one thing to the next. I was like, sure, I'll go back and watch this. And I always had a fear of like, I love this show so much for so many reasons. It hit me when I was like a teenager. It was like right before I was in high school. And it's just like, I hope it's still good. I hope it still holds up. I hope, like, I don't know. There's just like a weird fear. It was just kind of immaculate, and I wanted to leave it on the shelf.
When was the last time you seriously watched it?
Like 15, 20 years since I watched like multiple episodes.
Okay.
Like I would be like watching TV or something like, and it would just, the rerun would just pop up, or like somebody would show a scene and that would make me think of something. And when I did get the DVDs, like 5 years ago, Amanda and I watched like the first 5 or 6 episodes. Yeah. But like I'm deep. I'm like in the 3rd season now. Like I'm into like Batgirl, Robin era. And man, is that a damn fine television show?
Yes.
And I don't want to go on and on and on and on and on and on.
I want to go on and on and on and on.
But I just want to point out one thing that I think is extremely mature and really fascinating. Because one thing that, I don't know if I ever let you borrow this actually, but I have the writer's Bible from the thing they gave all the writers before they started the animated series. Whoa. And one of the most fascinating parts of that book is, here's what we're not going to write about. They were like, do not even submit scripts based on this. And one was like, his parents dying. Stop it. They're like, and this is cool, like even in the 90s, they were like, no, they're like, I don't want a thing where some guy back in the alley saw it and it comes back to Bruce and no, like we're not, just get away from that. And it's really interesting that like they don't cover Two-Face until like way later. Like you meet Two-Face and he's Two-Face. And you're like, oh, and they don't like until later go back and like show you what happened. And like Robin just shows up. And it's not until like the 4th or 5th or 6th Robin episode that like they bring up Zuko and he goes back and you're like, oh, and and you go back and see what happened to Robin and how he became Robin. And so it's like, I like that in a lot of instances the show is like, I mean, you know who Riddler is. Let's just get to the point. Like, we don't, it'd be cool to do a Man-Bat or do a Maxi Zeus or maybe do some origin stories that you're not that familiar with, Killer Croc. Like, characters that you're like, oh, I don't know that well, that we know now, I think, because of the animated series. But what makes that show so superb is 3 episodes. One, and there might be more, but that I've just found so far. One with Harley, one with Poison Ivy, and one with the Penguin, where they supposedly reform. Like, they're supposedly, like, out of prison, and they swear off the life, and they're like, no, I'm not going to do it. And I don't want to spoil any of those episodes. Some of them mean it, some of them don't. But I think it's fascinating that, like, every time there's an episode that, like, when the card starts at the beginning, I'm like, it's a good episode. Always written by Paul Dini every time. I'm like, every time. Every time. And he wrote all 3 of these episodes, and just the way they explore, like, okay, it's great that he goes out and he hunts these people, but like, then what? Like, what? Like, we sent him to Arkham. Like, are we actually expecting them to get out? And I like that they have these episodes where it's like, well, maybe they did, and then what? Like, would we believe them? Like, how would they get back into society? Like, how different would society be? How would society treat them? Would it be possible for someone that is that far gone, to come back and like try to live like a normal life? It was just like, the old television show didn't do that. The Nolan films don't really get into that. It was neat seeing them realize like, okay, now we're in season 3. Like, let's touch on some really interesting subjects and try to like, do more with these characters than just being like, oh, blowing stuff up. Just the way they use, like the heavy use of guns is like, I forgot how many guns are in that show. A lot of problems are solved with guns, and it's not something you want to like teach kids via like your, Saturday, or like, on a Thursday afternoon at like 3 p.m. But
I wonder what order it's in, because you're talking about like Two-Face just being Two-Face all of a sudden.
Maybe not, but definitely Robin. Robin definitely just shows up.
Oh yeah,
like he's just boop, like Robin one episode. It might be in a wacky order. I haven't done. I haven't seen that.
Because I know, yeah,
Two-Face double.
There was a production order, and then there's like the aired on TV order.
Okay.
So I wonder if Amazon's all weird or.
Got to look that up.
So I have a weird quality about things that I love so much that it affects how I consume other things. I have this a lot with music too, where I'll be getting into an artist and I'll find an album of theirs, and it might be an artist that has many albums. Like let's say they have 20 albums, but I'll find an album that I just love so much and I'll listen to for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I'll be so afraid of listening to any of the other albums just because in this strange way this album at this moment in my life has filled the void so perfectly that you almost don't want to like upset that or make it strange. And the reason I bring this up is because I sort of had a similar sensation with Batman the Animated Series, where it was so good, it was so far beyond most other superhero storytelling that I encountered that I was just kind of like, I don't want to see what else is out there. Like, I'm scared. This is so good. This is so perfect. Has that happened to you with Batman the Animated Series? Or do you have sort of the reverse effect where because it's good, it makes you more adventurous?
It's definitely had that impact. And it's funny now to mentally get back to that era. But, like, I definitely, anything past the animated series concerning Batman, I was like, you know, like, they, like, changed the art style. And I was like,
right,
and, like,
exactly.
I got really grumpy. And then... like, then they took it away, and then, like, The Batman came around, and then, like, Brave and the Bold, and then, like, Teen Titans was really high. I mean, Teen Titans is still pretty big. And Young Justice, and, you know, there was just a lot of, like, weird things they were doing. There was some weird, like, direct-to-DVD animated films, and, like, I didn't know what to make of that stuff right away. And then, of course, like, you know, all sorts of potential issues I could get into with Nolan's trilogy, and, like, of just, like, that's not the way it should be. And then, like, gradually I just grew up, and I'm like, okay, there's no way it should be. And I think one thing that was really eye-opening to me for Batman, that any Batman fan should educate themselves about, is the laughable condition the character was in when he first launched. You know, when people talk about, like, the purest of any comic, and I talk about that stuff all the time, about, like, you gotta get back to its roots. Well, like, in his roots, he lived in an apartment and was, like, engaged to some random lady and, like, fought vampires and stuff. Like, it took a while to, like, get the Batmobile and the Manor and Alfred and you know, like, and Gordon and, like, all like what we consider now, like, to be Batman. And so I'm like, I'm totally fine with the evolution of this character and people trying new things and me thinking, like, yeah, does that make sense? Like, would I like to add that? But, like, of the most things I've experienced, comic books included, with Batman, I take the most from that show, where I'm just like, yes, like, yep, that's Penguin, like, right there, like.
It's so interesting.
Good. That's the Joker.
When you say, you know, you kind of grew up and you said, well, there's no way that it should be. And it's something that I speak about sometimes, where it's like, no, we should be open to different interpretations of
Gotham.
things. Right? Like, we talk about the DMC reboot all the time and how we get annoyed that people don't take it seriously because it's different, or the Wind Waker response, people don't take it seriously because it's different. But at the same time, I think we all have that moment where you just feel so personally invested in something because it affected you so much that you don't want to say goodbye to it. You don't
and like I did say goodbye, and now I'm back.
Right.
You were talking about the reverse effect, though. It's like, it's so immortalized that other things make me appreciate it more, and I love trying new things. Like, again, when I watch Gotham, it does something different. I love it for that. And when I
love you for watching Gotham.
when I, you know, play a Batman game or read a Batman comic or Batman anything, it makes my love for the animated series stronger if said thing is not as good. I can respect that for what it is, and then it's, you know, it's not as good as the animated series, obviously. You know, it's the best. Like,
right. I think it's also just the reluctance to move away from a thing. You know, you said you beat Resident Evil 2, more than 100 times?
Easily.
I think
people don't believe it, but I swear on my life.
Right. It's sort of like when you connect with something and you love it so deeply that you say, like, I don't want to be in another place. Like, I just want to stay. I just want to stay here.
I just want to be in Raccoon City.
But talking about immortalizing it and the legacy and other things making you appreciate it more, when they do sort of like DLC things where it's like, now he looks like Batman from the animated series, does that cheapen the effect for you at all? Do you think that's using that legacy?
Because Baldini was involved with Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. Totally cool with it.
I have an extremely unpopular Batman opinion I can just drop on you. I think you know this.
I probably do.
Kevin Conroy did an amazing performance in the animated series, and it weirds me out every time he's ever played Batman since. It's just because it's like
Weirds you out because you don't
Who
like...
is this? You know, it's like, because to me, it's like every time you start a Batman, you're like, this is our Batman, you know? And I'm like,
But don't you think of Arkham as like a continuation of the animated series?
A little bit. I mean, that was the easiest transition, and certainly I played those games and love those games so much that like I got over it. But like, it's a little weird. It's a little weird going into a brand new DC world and being like, wow, cool, and then he shows up like, it's me. I'm back. It's me. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So when I look at these other characters and see like this Superman, Tim Daly was Superman in Injustice too. So that was also like, it's a little weird. It's fine when they talk to each other, and then they talk to anybody else, and you know, and it gets strange. It's weird. It's like, oh, that's here. Okay, different Brainiac. Like, got it. But I'm not saying it's bad. That's just like, it's weird. Same with the Hamill's Joker. You know, it's like, I love when there's a new Joker. I love when someone like someone else just takes a crack at it, and it's like, I mean, talk about the scariest damn thing you could do. You know, yeah, it's like that's brave for like writers to be like, no, I'm gonna make him. Even like the Batman show where it was like mostly action oriented, and he was like, you know, like he was just like a very like reggae crazy like party Joker. It was like, let's do it, great, you know. And like I had issues with like, you know, Ledger's portrayal, but it was like, this is fascinating, you know. It's like, I'd much rather you do this than do an impression of anything else.
Sure.
You know, like, so
I even liked Leto.
But that's my weird. That's my weird.
Did you like Leto?
I appreciate it. You know, it's like I'm stuck. You know, it's like I watch it like, okay. I'm not like, it's just like maybe. Some
I wanted to
things
get
I like
another crack. I want to see another.
The thing I hated least about Leto was the way he looked. Like, hey, people were like, that doesn't look like the Joker, and it's like the Joker wears costumes, man. Like, and I love they embraced that with the animated series. Like, when he goes to Africa, he wears like, you know, like his like Raiders of the Lost Ark outfit. You know, like he loves dressing up. So like him having tattoos and stuff, like that's not. If you look at him and you're like, oh, it's like how that's the way you should look at the Joker. You should be disgusted by him. You know, like you should be, you shouldn't root for that guy. It's interesting to see Harley Quinn like on kids' socks. Like, she's a murderer, but whatever, it's fine. Like that's what she's known for. That's like her. She attained celebrity by killing people.
Yeah,
get that Lego figure on Sally's shelf.
Well, it's weird, right? Because I think a lot of times this happens, not just with Harley Quinn, but many characters where like the style of the character is separate from the motivations of the character. They're two different things, and people fall in love with like just one aspect of them. It's always really weird to me.
Nathan Drake is a murderer.
Don't.
Is it why? Yeah.
I mean,
all in self-defense. Everyone, every last one. You killed anybody? Yeah, but they were all bad.
with the Nathan Drake thing, I don't want to open up a can of worms,
I don't want to go down it. I don't want to go down that hole.
We don't want to go down.
I don't want to do it.
Keep avoiding one hole after the other.
Yeah, we're dodging potholes. Man.
We got other holes to jump in. What have you been playing, man?
So my E3 chill out game was Watch Dogs 2.
When you said,
tempted me so hardcore. With this
when you said I'm going to be talking about Watch Dogs 2 today, I got really excited.
Oh my
really
God.
excited.
The Vista shot, the Vista screenshot in open world game pulls me so hard whenever somebody does that. Bloodworth would like, I remember when Blood was reviewing Witcher 3, he would like send me screenshots. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? I can't play this game right now. Stop it. Look at his farm. I'm like, stop sending me screenshots.
I want to get sent Witcher screenshots.
Yeah, what the heck,
Blood? Come on, Blood.
Watch Dogs 2 is awesome. I love this game for so many reasons. First up, the setting. San Francisco. Beautiful setting. I lived in San Francisco for like 4 years. So it's pretty awesome to cruise through a virtual San Francisco and see so many spots. They really nailed the vibe and the flavor and the feel of San Francisco. Of course, it's not a one-for-one. So like Sunset District is missing, and I couldn't really find Haight-Ashbury but for
that seems like a miss, but
right, yeah, they kind of like fused the Mission and Haight and Castro kind of all into one. It was fine, but again, you know, it's not a one-to-one. So like just cruising around San Francisco and just exploring, it felt so nice. Like this is one of the most detailed open worlds I've ever explored, and
it sounds like a getaway vacation for you.
Absolutely. There were no radio towers. The entire city is open right out of the gate. So you just feel free playing Watch Dogs 2. It's a very free feeling game.
So I know you disagree with me on this, but the reason why I didn't finish Watch Dogs is I just didn't care about what I was doing.
Aiden Pierce.
And I didn't care about Aiden Pierce. Did they do a better job of that here?
Yes. So I love Aiden Pierce. I'm way in the minority on that one.
Yeah.
He's Batman. Come on, he's a vigilante, right? So
He's not Batman.
I know. I'm sorry, Batman. That was mean of me. No, dude, there's some good Aiden Pierce stuff. Dive into that lore. It's good.
I mean,
Had a rough life.
Easiest cosplay ever.
it's tough, Huber, though, because you've defended Aiden Pierce before, and you've said, like, no, there's something there you have to dig in. And I feel you, and I respect your opinion, and I believe you, but I also feel like the work itself has to make me want to dive in. It's always such an upsetting feeling where it's like, I know there's something here, and I guess I'll do it, but I don't want to. I don't feel that drive to.
For sure.
And I think that is definitely the fault of the work itself.
Totally. Witcher 2, though, immediately.
Watch Dogs 2.
Watch Dogs 2. Witcher 2. Watch Dogs 2.
I got you.
You got me.
Got in your brain.
Got me. Watch Dogs 2. I featured the prologue on the Syndrome because this prologue, you played it.
I love that you call it the Syndrome.
This prologue, this like 15-minute tutorial makes you immediately care about these characters. Especially Marcus Holloway, the lead. He is immediately likable. He's breaking into a Bloom server farm to delete his profile just off the system. So it's really cool. And then like you hear some of the DedSec members, they're like talking to him, narrating it. They're saying, they're hyping it up like no one's ever done this before. Like, this is, so it feels high stakes right out of the gate. And he's a likable guy. Like when he bounces out, he's just like, F you, Bloom. He like drops down this server and he's leaving. He's like, man, screw you guys. Like it's just super awesome guy. And then you meet the cast, you meet his crew, and it's just this band of misfits trying to take down the system. It's really relevant game right now where, people feel
anti-establishment, yeah.
And and like it's funny because you can look at characters, and I feel like GTA sometimes would get this flack where you would look at a character or GTA haters look at the game and they assume it's something it's not, They think GTA is just like, Trevor, like, F you, GTA,
right.
We're going to go around and kill everything. But it's like diving into GTA. It's like way smarter than that. And Watch Dogs 2 is the same way. And with the character Wrench, the one with the mask, he's got like the studs on it. He's like a punker and he wears the mask the whole time. Like, it's very easy to judge him on a surface level and at face value. And as you progress and you start learning about this character, like, it goes places and it's
so
awesome.
That was a question that I had, and it sounds like maybe that's what they were going for is, oh man, are they going to lean a little bit too heavily on this hacker culture and internet joke sort of thing? Is it going to become grating? Does it feel like they sort of want you to make those assumptions and they're like, no, but there's actually real character development here beyond just these surface level sticks that the characters have.
The best part about it too is you go through mini arcs. Every mission is treated as like a kind of a self-contained thing. So it's like these stories. You have the one giant overarching narrative, and then all these main quests are kind of their own thing with like a beginning, middle, and end. And obviously some of them tie into later on, but it's like these self-contained missions are
interesting.
Yeah, it's good for pacing. It's good storytelling. It's a good way to interact with like one or two characters at a time. It's like, I'm working with you now on this job. Like, so we go through this, and I learn a little about you and the world. So, and it's a complex game. It's not an easy. It's easy if you play video games, but like I'm hesitant to really recommend this to like my brother or something who doesn't play a lot of video games because there is kind of a learning curve. There's a lot of hacking, there's puzzles. You got to like move your RC cars in like little places, and the hacking mechanic is back with twisting the like lines or whatever. I always loved those.
So is it complicated because those things, all of those systems have a lot to them, or it's just because there are a lot of things in general?
Yeah, there's a lot of things in general. And you have to think outside the box. So it'll be like, all right, get up there. And it's like, okay, how do I get up there? So you'll kind of have to like go around the building and like look for an entrance. And, I see a crane down there. Maybe I can hack that, lower it down, get on that, come up here, use my drone to go in here and open this. So like there's a lot of layers for sure.
In Watch Dogs 1, one of the gameplay criticisms that I had was the hacking felt sort of copy and pasted in every instance, where it's like, okay, you have to go climb up on this thing, push that thing, open that door, where it all felt like variations of the same idea. Is that true of the hacking here? Like, you're talking about these puzzles, you're talking about all these different systems, but is the way that these systems are implemented varied enough, I guess?
Yes and no. It's hard to explain. Okay, so you're doing mostly the same thing where you have to, hack a box to unlock a door and then move the wires and stuff, but the way all of those plays out is varied enough. Sometimes it'll be climbing, sometimes I'll need a drone, sometimes I'll need my RC car, sometimes I'll need to go in hands-on and actually be there in person to hack it. So there is enough variety. It's mostly the same thing, but you're doing it in constantly different ways.
So you mentioned the world, fun to drive around in. Does it feel alive? Does it feel like there's a lot to do? Are there a lot of what are the smallest of the optional things look like in Watch Dogs 2?
So there's side quests, obviously.
Yeah.
And they all feel great. They all have payoffs. They all, like, some of them have
Story payoffs.
Yeah, like some of them will be with an entire character. You'll go on a mission with a character, and they'll have cutscenes like for the side quest, like full on. So it's rewarding in that sense because you learn again more about the characters, which I loved in this game. Yeah, there's not really many like side act. I mean, there's like weird open world stuff. There's like go-kart racing and motocross, like weird stuff.
Yeah.
But San Francisco is such a visually distinct and varied city that, anywhere you go within it looks cool. You're always going to new places. Missions are always sending you to places. There's, it's so big. Like the Transamerica building, not a spoiler, but the Transamerica building, the big like pointy building in San Francisco, like none of the missions take you there, but it's there, so you can like go and cruise around it, take a look. So one of the side, like the only mission with the Golden Gate Bridge, side quest, like there's a full side quest where like you have to like paint some stuff on the bridge. It's really cool.
I want to get back to Watch Dogs 2.
It's really fun.
Have you finished it?
Yeah, dude, I finished it, and I got the DLC story stuff. Finished that.
Nice. How long is that main story in Watch Dogs 2?
Ooh, it's like 15 if you don't do the side
Might
quests.
be the Christmas break.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so perfect for E3 because it's like not Persona intense, but like just enough to chill out, but engage my brain. Persona's intense. You
gotta mean it.
It's just very long. Brandon, you're the open world guy.
Yeah.
Haven't played through Watch Dogs 2.
I did. The only time I played Watch Dogs 2 was they were like closing PSX. So it was like, we're going to close the doors in 10 minutes. And it's like, oh, Watch Dogs 2, let's do it. Like, it was like no one was at the terminals. They had like 4 terminals set up, completely barren. And it just ran around. And the one thing from my 10 minutes with Watch Dogs 2 that I loved was hacking cars.
Yes.
Hacking parked cars and just having them like drive out in traffic in a bus. Like, and then like seeing the turmoil, like seeing like the people get out of the bus and freak out, and like people like walking dogs like look by.
People calling the cops.
It felt a little more. Like when I get into a world in GTA, I'm not apologetic at all. Like I definitely want to play a role when I am specific characters. I enjoyed GTA 5 that I got to like change that mindset when I was switching between those 3 guys.
Sure.
But I definitely like to be a respectable criminal when I'm playing GTA. But at the same time, if I'm not playing the campaign, like I don't care about this world, I'm gonna go blow stuff up. And there was definitely like a delicacy to the world of Watch Dogs 2 that I'm like, ooh, I don't. Like getting a car accident in this world seems like a little bit out of place. Like it doesn't seem a world inviting chaos. Like it does
I'm really glad you brought that up, Jones.
Because it's so much more about stealth, I think, than Grand
Yes.
Theft Auto is. So the world feels like a little bit, I don't want to say scarier, but like a little bit more like that you have eyes on you, that like people just freak out a little bit more.
So the stealth is really good in this game. You know how I'm always critical of like going up next to someone and them not noticing you?
Yeah.
Stealth felt really good.
It felt good because they noticed you more easily?
Yeah, they notice you pretty spot on if you're like sneaking around, even from a distance. If you're running, like that meter fills up pretty fast. If I do have a criticism though, Jones, you nailed it, which is combat, shooting. Shooting in this game is awesome. Like the shotgun in Watch Dogs 1 and 2 now, great shotguns. insanely loud. The volume is like 100. You know, you shoot like machine guns, pistols, it's like pop, pop, pop. You get the shotgun, it's like boom! Super loud, good blood spatter, just awesome. But again, it doesn't feel right for these characters to be killing people. These are just hackers trying to fix the system. These are not killers. Like, it made sense for Aiden Pierce because Aiden Pierce is crazy vigilante contract killer style, will kill people.
Isn't that a good thing though? That
Yes,
it feels wrong.
It does feel wrong, but there are some
Out of
parts.
place, I guess.
There are some parts when it's like, yo, I got busted on stealth. What do I do? Like,
I see.
I better just get my machine gun out and start shooting. But that feels weird. So it's like, do I just use my taser? But if I use my taser, they get up eventually. So if I'm going deep into a building to hack it and I taser them, I know they're gonna get back up. So there is kind of a weird.
It's a practical problem.
Yeah.
But again, they were all about just having fun. Like, when they made this game, they even said that they're like, we want this game to be fun first and foremost. Like, you know, the reason shooting is in there, the reason stealth is in there is to give people freedom, to give people choice, play how you want to play.
Yeah.
It does kind of break the context a little, but so be it.
I mean, if stealth just feels definitively
Yeah.
better than combat,
feels
that's disappointing because
Well, they both feel good. It just feels right when you stealth.
I thought you were saying
no, combat
that-
feels good.
that-
Combat feels good.
I knew the shotgun was good, but I thought you were saying overall. Okay.
Yeah, feels good, but feels wrong. I should say.
I see.
Yeah. So.
That's something that I liked about Dishonored so much is both contextually and mechanically, like stealth and just the combat felt amazing.
Yes. Yeah. Watch Dogs expansion
play-
coming.
Played Dishonored DLC. Brandon, why haven't you played more Watch Dogs, man?
There's a lot of open world games.
Yeah.
One big hole,
just
John.
time.
Dude, I'll tell you. I mean, Watch Dogs 2 sounds great, but I'm gonna play Witcher
okay.
DLC 2 before I play Watch
No,
Dogs.
you got the one big hole. It sounds like a
Blood
show.
Wine.
It sounds like a show coming or a stream.
What?
Sleeping Dogs.
I played Sleeping Dogs. I didn't finish Sleeping Dogs, but I played a lot of Sleeping Dogs. The remaster.
Okay.
I didn't play
I'm
when it
so
came
excited
out.
for this show.
I remember back in the day, people.
I got
chat
that on
was-
Xbox.
Chat was
I got
giving
that
you a
on
hard
Xbox
time.
One,
They were like,
yeah.
you never played it. You never finished it. Like,
Didn't finish it, but
okay.
yeah, played enough Sleeping Dogs to know
Okay.
like where that fits into the
Cool.
the grand scheme of open world. But you're a fan of open world games. It's not happening. There's just
Yeah.
no way that you're catching up
many.
on all this stuff.
Too
Yeah.
many.
Way too many.
Because like you said, you're like, yeah, 15 if you rush. And it's like, I ain't rushing.
Yeah.
Watch Dogs 2.
Yeah, I'm not
No,
rushing this.
I ain't rushing no open world game.
It's not even an option on the
There's
table.
also Watch Dogs 2 multiplayer, which is awesome. People will just hack into your game. Really creative, really clever multiplayer in these games. I was playing, and insane. They just added these for free in a patch. Game's been patched a bunch, too. They've added a ton of stuff. But I was just playing. All of a sudden, some armored car gets robbed by these two guys. Middle of the street. We're talking like Michael Mann Heat bank heist armored car style. They're like shooting everyone. It's like, yo, these guys are causing chaos. Like, go get them, like bounty hunter style. It's like, what is happening? Then all of a sudden, like, honestly, I'm not even kidding. Like a 15-minute high-speed chase with like me hunting these two guys down with cops, choppers, like totally random, unscripted,
Huber Heaven.
cool moment. Yeah, for sure.
Living Heat.
Yeah,
Huber, you had another game on this list that I don't know what the hell it is.
yeah.
What is it?
Get even. Get even.
Don't get mad.
How much of it was your interest because of the title initially?
A little bit.
Okay, a little bit.
You know, I live loving swimming in sevens. This is exactly what Get Even is. This is a 7.0. But the reason
Hard
I love
7.
Hard 7. The reason I love 7 so much, though, is because they take risks. They have something to like the good 7s, obviously. You know, there's normal 7s.
There's a whole scale of
There's a
sevens.
whole scale of 7s. Swimming in 7s is like, this is that.
That corner of the pool that you want to swim in.
It's just funny when you say the good 7. I don't.
Good 7.
It's a hard thing to process.
This game is the weirdest game I've played this year by a mile.
This year?
Yeah.
Whoa.
This is bizarre. Everything about this game, from the way it plays, from the way it looks, the fact that it was even made, like everything about this game. All right,
What do you do?
So let's narrow it down. First of all, it feels like a early PS3 360 game. Okay, so think back.
Deadly Premonition vibes.
Maybe not that level of jank, but it feels old.
Okay.
So it is a first-person shooter / puzzle game / psychological thriller / walking simulator. Is all of these things in one.
How do you be a first-person shooter and a walking simulator at the same time?
Because you're going through different memories, okay? So the game starts out...
You and your memory games, man.
Love memories. So the game starts out with this badass... You play as this badass secret agent, dude. It feels like Ray Winstone or Winston?
Winstone, I think.
Ray Winstone. It feels like Ray Winstone as James Bond. That is the immediate comparison I made. It's like,
Who is
whoa.
Ray Winstone?
Ray Winstone is this badass British, I think he's British, actor. He's in, like, Sexy Beast. He's in The Departed. He's in maybe some Guy Ritchie movies here and there. Just a really rough, rugged, like, British gangster actor. He's like in a lot of British gangster movies. Really cool character actor. So it feels like you're...
Oh, God, he was in Crystal Skull. Wasn't he, like,
Yes,
Indy's buddy in Crystal Skull?
He was.
Whoa.
Yeah.
He's a guy that, like, double-crosses Indy, like, 4 times, and you're just like... The 4th time he double-crossed Indy, I was out. I'm sorry. You're an idiot if you're going to trust that guy one more time.
I think it speaks to Crystal Skull. I've seen that movie twice, and I can't picture who you're...
It's good. No, it's good. It's good. It's good. Let it go. Let it go. Let it just bleed out your ears.
Yep. It's gone.
Also, it was the voice of Beowulf, I believe, in the animated film.
Nice.
He was the only character in that film that wasn't modeled after their face. Like, everybody else was just like, hey, what's up? I'm Robin Wright. I'm in this cartoon.
Not helping with the picture, but
Anyway, really cool actor. He's not in the game, but I just thought of him. Okay. So it starts out, you're this like agent, and you're trying to rescue a girl. She's got a bomb strapped to her chest. You're trying to rescue her. So you're going in first person style, like stealth, taking
why does she
these...
have a bomb on her chest?
You don't know. This is a game of mystery. Just go with it. Let me get there.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So you're going
Somebody's
through...
trying to get even.
You're stealthing guys, like snapping their necks, and you have this gun, which is like randomly a huge plot device. There's this pistol gun that you can has a screen, your like cell phone, has your cell phone, and you click like L1 or R1 for it to shoot around corners. So it's like this pistol gun that can like shoot, right? And it like, you think it's just this weird novelty at first, like, oh, that's cool, like pistol. But like you get, I'm a couple hours in, I'm like 4 or 5 hours into the game. A couple hours in, you're like, whoa, this game is like hugely part of the plot for some reason. You like the weapon schematics and like, so you try to rescue the girl. This is not spoilers. This is in the first 10 minutes. The bomb goes off. You immediately wake up in a asylum with this weird device strapped to your head and a mysterious figure whose voice goes from a man to a woman all the time. So you don't know if it's a man or a woman. It starts a man and this woman.
Creepy.
So this mysterious voice is talking to you and you're just like, what is happening? So it's about trying to get your memory back, trying to solve the mystery by going into different memories.
One pistol corner at a time.
One pistol corner at a time. Some of them you don't have a gun. They're more stealth. Some of them are linear. That's where the walking simulator comes through. There's like a weird Mad Hatter character.
So specific memories change how you're playing.
They change how you're playing. They change the location. Some memories, some of them, you like the stealth action ones, you can like put in like a barrel from a memory, so like it'll be outlined, but you can like hack it in, you know, like, oh, the memory, boom, it's here. Like,
Bill and Ted, I'm gonna leave this barrel here.
Yeah, so I can like hide behind it. So
I want to go back to this gun.
The gun is so weird.
You're saying it's this huge plot device, but I'm not sure how yet.
Because it's like it keeps alluding to this like weapons manufacturer and the girl. You're trying to figure out why the girl was killed, and she's like blaming you. I don't want to get too much into it because the story is why I'm playing. So I don't want to get too caught up in the details.
Okay.
But the story
It's just
The story's
bizarre.
enough. It is extremely bizarre.
It seems like a make believe game you'd play with like your friends in like 5th grade.
It's so
We'd
weird.
be like, I shot you, and it's like, yeah, your gun turns around when you shoot it. And shot Bill over there, and he's like, what? That gun didn't shoot me. Like,
And you have your phone. The phone is the big mechanic. You can like scan evidence. It's all about like picking up clues. So like following blood trails or like finding things
Condemned.
and Condemned vibe for sure.
So does that stuff feel pretty automated? Where it's like, okay, there's no way I could miss these clues. Or are you hunting around pretty thoroughly?
Some you miss for sure because then there's a room where it's like all of your clues that you found and a percentage. Hopefully you don't have to get 100% of the clues because that would really check me out of the game. I don't think you have to, thankfully. But yeah, there's a bunch that I've missed.
well, to get the final blueprints, you need all 100% of the clues.
Do you get the sense, especially since you're going into different memories and you're hunting down for things, that this is a game where, like, depending on how you play, things could change?
So that was the last thing I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
There's right in the beginning, there's this guy, he's like, get me out of here, because he has a weird device on his head too. He's like, man, get me out of here, like hack the thing over there. You let him out. He's like, thanks, man, I'll remember that. It bounces, really
okay.
mysterious. And right at the top it says, remember, your actions will have consequences. And then when you kill...
It's the dog from RE4.
And
Bear Trap.
Yes. And then back to Watch Dogs 2, like killing people. This game makes you feel bad for killing people, even though it's a memory. Because when you kill them, they'll disintegrate because it's like dream memory world. But the announcer will be like, yo, what are you doing? Like, don't kill him. Like, we're here to relive the memory, not create new ones. You're going to mess it all up. Like, you know,
Well,
stay out of sight. Be stealth. And when you kill more people, they're like, is that how you solve everything? With bullets? Like, really harping on you. Like, whoa. Like, I don't want to kill anyone. You're making me feel bad.
So, I think this game sounds kind of awesome.
It is, yeah.
Where does the 7 come in?
The visuals, that's what, bring up the old...
So just the outdated look and feel of it.
Yeah.
Does that translate to the controls as well?
Controls are serviceable.
Okay.
So they're fine. They've not gone in the way, which is, you know, that's all I care for. If they don't get in the way, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
Controls are fine. Standard first person,
you can adjust.
Yeah. Just, you know, rough animations, like when you stealth them, and just really bad visuals. So, a little rough around the edges.
Rough
but,
around the edges.
Yeah.
Very cool idea.
Yeah.
I kind of want to know what's going on.
I know.
I want to
I'm
know why the
hooked.
girl had a bomb on her chest.
Yeah, 100%. I'm gonna go through it all next time on Frame Trap. I'll say if it was worth it. So if you're holding out, it's only a $30 game, so it's not full
Is this
price.
out right now?
This is out right now. It came out a couple days ago. It came out Friday. So,
Yeah, I want to check this out.
Yeah, it's a strange little nugget.
Get even.
Get even.
The gun can shoot around corners.
It's so weird.
Okay.
It's so weird.
Here we got one more thing. Mm-hmm. A TV show. Two
Yes.
games in a TV show, the Huber Special.
Better Call Saul just wrapped up season 3.
The thing that I keep hearing about Better Call Saul, like it's better with each season.
Mm-hmm.
You confirm that?
Yes. Unbelievable. Season 3 was far and away the best season. You know, I feel guilty talking about it without Kyle. But Kyle is weirdly scared to talk about movies and TV. He's always like, "Oh, I don't like know how to like talk about them." Like he's like he's weird about it. He's like I don't critically analyze movies and TV, and I'm like, "Yo, Kyle, I don't either. Like just say what you love about Better Call Saul." Cuz Kyle every single week we would just Slack message each other like, Saul tonight, or like it would be Sunday night, like or it'd be Sunday afternoon, and I would just be like 9 hours. Saul.
So he's just as into it.
Oh yeah, I don't want to speak for Kyle, but it
Yeah.
seems like it's easily his favorite show.
Okay.
And we were talking about that is the way to do a prequel.
That makes me feel good. 'cause
Better Call Saul. It's one of
prequels
the-
are hard, man.
They're so hard, and I think season 3 specifically just nailed it because, you know, you go into season 1 obviously coming off what is considered one of the greatest shows.
I was exhausted artistically, quite frankly. Like Breaking Bad drained me.
Yes.
And had drained everything I had.
Yep.
And I watched like 4 episodes of Saul, and I was like, this ain't bad, but I can't.
Yes.
That is actually kind of where I'm coming from, and I'm hearing all of this hype about the 3rd season.
Yeah.
And I watched the 1st season, and I was like, "This is good.
Yeah.
It's a good television show." But coming directly off of Breaking Bad,
Yeah.
and it not I don't know. I didn't feel quite as enamored, I guess.
Totally. Fair enough. Season 1, again, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
But season 2 and 3, season 3, a whole nother level. One of the biggest things is that...
Hold on.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, I'm pretty sure everybody listening already knows, but just real quick, what is Better Call Saul?
Better Call Saul is a prequel to Breaking Bad starring Jimmy McGill, a.k.a. Saul Goodman from Breaking Bad.
What's going on with Saul? Why
So
do
Saul
I want
is-
to watch this show about Saul?
So Saul was still Jimmy at this point. You know, this is, again, before Breaking Bad. What has become the heart and the soul of the show is the stuff that's not connected to Breaking Bad in any way. It's his brother. It's his coworker Kim. It's the other lawyer at the firm, Howard. It's they like, I feel like season 1, you know, come on, season 1 immediately coming in with Tuco.
Yep.
Like, really trying to drive home the connection with Breaking Bad. I feel like Jimmy's storyline in season 3 was so far removed from everything Breaking Bad, but still honors it. But it was telling its own thing and its own story. It's like, no, we're watching Better Call Saul here. Like, I'm not even thinking about Breaking Bad. But remember, also in the show is Mike Ehrmantraut, who is in Breaking Bad as well. So it's like you have these two parallel stories going on. One that is like Breaking Bad origins, and one that is Jimmy McGill, Better Call Saul, all of these other interesting stories that are just so powerful, so emotional. I can't even, like, again, I can't, it's hard to talk about it without going into too many details because I don't want to spoil it, but it's just characters. Ugh.
Yeah, I don't want you to spoil it, and so it's a tricky question.
It
Be
is.
ready for that. But at the end of season 1, I mean, the things that you're talking about, those elements, the brother relationship, Kim, the other law firm, they, I think, pretty clearly showed you what was going on in all three of those things, and Jimmy's relationship to them. It sounds like that's been deepened in a really valuable way. Without going into specifics, like, how are they developing that stuff to make it so interesting and like worth watching that first season, worth watching that second season, third season? Why is this worth the investment?
It continues things from season 1. So it's been building. It's been building on relations and things. I don't want to spoil it. It's so hard.
You don't have to spoil it, but I think, are you saying that season 1 was the setup, and then season 2 and 3, do those things reveal sides that you weren't expecting?
Yes.
Or do they just are okay?
That. Yes. Exactly that.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's hard. Maybe this is why
is.
Kyle doesn't want to talk about TV shows.
True.
because it's
True. And it's hard not to spoil it.
Right. Look at how much difficulty we have.
It is.
Just talking about it.
But if you like good writing. Oh, another thing, an easy thing to talk about is the way it looks, the way it's shot. We live in an era now, we're in 2017, where that comment is so just like whatever now, because every single show looks incredible.
Yeah.
Every show looks amazing. Every show has good cinematography. Like, if you're a big TV show on the public mind that people talk about, chances are you look amazing. Better Call Saul, though, and Breaking Bad, I think, are in another level. They do some of the coolest cinematography, some of the most creative shots.
I imagine them pissing off people a lot because can you seriously just imagine like them being like, okay, so he's gonna pull up, he's gonna drive here, and he's gonna get on the phone, and them just being like, can we get the camera like on the top of that pole?
For like a 4-second
like
shot,
looking down, and it's like, wait, where? And it's
Yeah.
like above the phone, like on the top of that pole, just straight down. It's like, that's 3 stories up. It's like, can we do that? And they're like,
Some of the best
I mean, we
shots.
can, but like, do we need, there were some shots before, even like, because there was so much procedural stuff with the preparing of the drugs in Breaking Bad. So there was lots, like, they love drums. Like, anytime you got new equipment and he opened it up, like, you were always inside of it, like looking out.
There was one
And
really
it
cool
just-
one with like the coffee dispenser, and it's like in the coffee thing, and the thing comes down, the coffee off he goes, and then he like reaches in.
It's like alarming, like even something like I just rewatched Star Trek Beyond, but like even like like what we can do with now with technology, where it's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna put the camera on the Enterprise and just it goes, you know, and you're like, that like it does create the world more. It does give you like having more perspective and having there definitely is its own art to that, and that stuff isn't easy, man. Anytime you see a shot like that, it's like that was the whole day, man, for that one shot.
So again, just great. Like you go, I just want to bring the point that when you maybe went into season 1 of Better Call Saul, it's impossible to remove it from Breaking Bad. So you're really doubling down on Jimmy and things related to Breaking Bad. But now since we're in its 3rd season, I'm focusing more on these characters created solely for Better Call Saul, and they are strong and memorable and layered.
Cool.
Yeah.
I guess that was another question that I had, because you mentioned Tuco in season 1, and I remember those episodes playing out, and they were tense.
Yeah.
And again, they were good, but there was that lingering sensation of, like, of course this is here because of its connection to the other series. Does that happen a lot less? Are there?
It feels so believable with Mike.
Okay.
Anytime Mike is involved,
And does it feel believable because they're spending so much time with him?
So much time, so much build up. Nothing feels cheap.
Sure.
Like the only cheap thing to me was Tuco.
Yeah.
None of that. Everything feels natural.
I remember the big thing before season 1 premiered, and then at the beginning of season 1, the conversation that you and Ian would have is, it's hard to get into this because we know what's going to happen to Saul.
Yeah.
We know the end. Does that's been answered for you?
Well, now I want to know what happened to these other characters that are
see.
not in Breaking Bad.
You don't get any frame of reference on them,
Yeah. So it's like, what happened to you? Where are you?
And why doesn't he talk about them?
Why? Yeah. Like, what happens? You know,
Sure.
people, the internet, people that watch this are like betting on this. Like, what is going to happen to this character? What is going to happen to this character? Please don't let this happen to this character. Like, yeah. Hell of a show. And an easy watch. I think there's only 10 episodes each season.
Yeah.
Sure.
Easy to catch up on. Pretty sure seasons
Yeah.
1 and 2 are on Netflix. Season 3 will be on there soon because it ended a little bit ago. Easiest recommendation of all time, especially if you love Breaking Bad. So,
Gotta do it.
also, lastly, there is a little nugget here. The pilot did this,
Okay.
and a couple episodes do this. This has only happened 2 or 3 times. Black and white footage. If you watch the very first episode, you remember this.
Yeah.
Black and white footage. Future Saul post Breaking Bad. You see him after the events of Breaking Bad. In 3 total seasons, they've only given us 7, 8, 9 minutes of that total. So that's always something too to look forward to when there's a new season. It's like, oh, what are we gonna get? That's like a little bit after Breaking, and it's just enough to not be forced and overbearing. But it also gives you context because it's like, all right, we go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, he ends up here, but like we're here now, and you just see this journey.
It's cool.
It's great. It's a great show.
Huber.
I know.
Yeah.
Too many things to watch.
Spend this
Well-
week watching Better Call Saul playing Watch Dogs 2. Like,
Get even.
Get even, dude.
Gonna go home, shoot around some quarters, then
good
boot up
thing-
Better Call Saul.
The good thing is that Get Even is only 10 hours. So, quick hitter.
10 hours is still a lot of time.
Yeah, but I feel like
It's a day.
10 hours is the new 6 hours. Like back in the day, you know, those...
You'd say like a cool 6-hour game?
Yeah, now it's a cool 10-hour game because games are so long.
Yeah.
So,
Do you think we're gonna get to a cool 15?
probably.
Okay.
Shoot around some corners.
Shoot around some corners.
It's so weird.
Oh, why are you playing this? Well, you see this gun. I've been playing some stuff that I'm pretty stoked to talk about. The first thing that I want to talk about, it seems like you always reach that point in a story where it feels like you're getting to the end, but you're not sure. Like, they could maybe pull something and send me off to do some more things, but I feel like I'm getting to the end of Ever Oasis.
Nice.
Yeah, and
I spoke for you on my stream last night.
Always
Somebody said, Ever Oasis, is it good? They were asking.
yeah,
And then somebody immediately hashtagged Ask Ben.
yeah.
And then I said, hey, I just talked to Ben on this in Slack.
Uh-huh.
He said it's solid. So
It's solid. It's
Said it was
solid.
Good reporting, Huber.
Yeah. It was just enough, and they were like, oh, okay, cool. That was all I needed. It's not bad.
You were talking about Get Even in the visual presentation being rough and kind of immediately putting you into this early PS3 360 era. The visual presentation of Ever Oasis totally has an effect on your mood. This game is adorable. It is like it is approaching Animal Crossing levels of adorable. You have these little seedling characters that and you play as this chieftain, and the entire game, basically, this chaos has consumed this land, and so you build this oasis, kind of this safe haven away from the chaos where people can live, where their lives have been affected.
You build towns, actually?
So you build one town, basically. You build this oasis.
Nice.
Yes. And so what happens is, when you're exploring the world, you'll encounter people. Like, somebody's afraid because there are monsters right by them, and so you'll go and you'll kill the monsters, and they're like, hey, thanks! Oh, you have an oasis. I'm going to go and visit your oasis. And then they go there.
Great premise.
Yeah, it's a really interesting loop because you have this action RPG element where you're going out in the world, and there are dungeons. There are very Zelda-like dungeons that you'll go through, and you'll get a big item to progress the story. And you'll go out in the overworld, and you'll kill monsters, and you'll level up, and you'll get materials. But all of that feeds back into the oasis building. And the Oasis building feeds back into the action RPG element. And so you'll get somebody into your Oasis, and sometimes just the act of getting there is enough for them to become residents. But other times they'll just be visiting, and they'll want you to do something for them. They'll be like, oh, man, I would live here, but I'm super into drums. So you're going to need to make a drum shop if you want me to be here. And once you build, they're called bloom booths, and they're essentially shops that you're building.
Nice.
And the different shops that you're building will attract different sorts of customers. Like one guy, you'll hear rumors about people, like people that might come visit your oasis.
Ooh.
If only you had a sash shop and a ball shop. And so you build the sash shop and the ball shop, and he's like, oh man, now I can finally come and live with you. And then those new people that come in based on those requirements, they'll have their own shops that they can build, and sometimes their requests are go out in the world and find this thing. So go find this material. I dropped it somewhere. Go to someplace and get it and bring it back. Then once you bring it back, I'll come and I'll live with you. And the shops are how you get money, essentially. You have these like little droplets of water that you can get. And that feeds into everything else.
How's the economy been?
So the economy is good because it all comes down to how you're managing everybody. So you use this money to build more shops, to get more people in, to make more money, but you also use it for item synthesis. So to get new accessories, to get more magic defense, to get more physical defense, to get better weapons for your characters. All of that stuff comes from the same pool of resources. And the longer the shops are up, they'll run out of stock. And you can only refill the stock if you have a particular item. And their happiness is directly related to how much stock that they have. So if somebody's out of stock and you neglect them, that affects how much health you have when you're going out and exploring. Because you have this sort of rainbow protection thing where you go out in the world, and it will like turn their happiness, the citizens' happiness, the residents' happiness, into a number. That number will be added to your health pool. And you need it because your base health pool is so small that you're going to get knocked out immediately. And so it's a strong incentive for you to keep people as happy as possible so you can get a bigger number so you get more HP when you go out into the world.
Sounds complex.
And explore. Yeah, it sounds complex. I will say this game introduces things incredibly slowly. The whole, like, I would argue, first chapter of the game, it almost feels like kind of an old Zelda game where it's like, okay, now we're going to stop and tell you about this mechanic. Now apply this mechanic. Okay, here's a new mechanic. So it's a little too slow, I would even argue. But once you get through the second dungeon, they really let off the training wheels, and you have a lot more freedom. And it's good. You have a garden that you can build up. That you grow plants in, and you can spend a little bit of extra money to make them grow faster. So that's another thing you have to consider.
What's the item to restock the supplies?
So every shop has a different item. So for
Do you
one
have
shop,
to find that? I mean,
you
in
have
the
to.
wild?
Yeah. So
Okay.
one shop it might be cactus pulp.
Yeah.
And you have to go out there, and there are cacti in the world that you go and you slice up.
Okay.
And then with that cactus pulp, you go
Sure.
and you stock the shop. Other materials come directly from monsters, and there are different monsters during the day or during the night.
Nice.
And
Do you have like a house?
you have a house.
Can you buy stuff for your house?
You can't buy stuff for your house. You have a bed in there. You have basically an item box, and then you have a synthesis tree where you can go and you can create
And a
items.
little garden as well.
Yeah, the big thing that you can customize is eventually pretty late on, you can customize the roads. You can just aesthetically, if you want to mix up how they look, there's no gameplay benefit whatsoever, and you can change that.
Cool.
And the dungeons are really cool because all of your different people have different skills, and you'll run. So you know how in Zelda you can only get through this obstacle with this specific item. The same mentality is kind of applied here, but it's with different party members. You can only have 3 party members in your group at one time, and all of them have different skills. So you'll run into a flower where it's like a parasol flower, and you'll shoot out of it, and you'll have a little helicopter leaf and you'll fly to a different platform. Only certain characters can do that. So if you don't have that character in your party, you can't beat that obstacle. And there are
So then you just have to leave the dungeon?
Well, I'll get to that.
Okay.
I'll get to that. And that's not just puzzle solving. There are also places where you can dig. If you don't have a character that can dig, you can't get that resource from that node. Same thing with mining and so on and so forth. So you can only have 3 characters in your party, and the game is very generous because almost at any point you can create an aqua gate. So wherever you are in the world, you can teleport back to your oasis, grab the person that you need, and then go back. However, this is still incredibly annoying. It feels like you should have 4 people in your party as opposed to 3, because you'll go into a dungeon where there's no way to bring the amount of people that you'll need to get through the whole dungeon.
So you have to go back and forth.
Yes,
Oh.
and the
sucks.
the more that you get into the game, the more skills that you need. And I'm finding myself constantly having to teleport back, swap people out. And it's not, like I said, and it's not just for puzzles. It's I actually need more of that material. I have to go swap back, get that person, but they're really weak in combat, so I only need them to do this one specific thing.
Yeah.
And so that micromanagement gets super, super tedious.
Whoa.
But you were talking about economy, and one thing that I do like is once your oasis gets huge and you have a ton of shops, you're going to need just a lot of different things from all of the different zones that you've been exploring. And so you'll need to make exploration parties where it's hey, we'll go and we'll collect this stuff for you, but we're not going to be
Nice.
available to sell stuff.
Okay.
And we're not going to be available in your party.
Yeah.
And so managing that is kind of fun.
I always like
because-
Love that. I'm
Yeah.
sucking for that stuff.
Yeah,
Me too.
choosing
So
who
easy
to put
do, and
where,
I do it for
when.
days.
Assassin's Creed, Black
Yeah.
Flag, just sending those ships out.
You have to. You definitely have to plan ahead, and that's cool.
Nice.
There are 2 other major criticisms that I had, and it's a game that I was so hot on when I was first playing it, and now that I'm at the end, I've definitely cooled off a little bit on, and it's I would like a sequel for you to kind of iron some of this stuff out. Your oasis gets so big that kind of the simple joys that you have get really tedious, where it's okay, I'm back to the oasis again. I have to restock everybody. Oh, I don't have those resources. I've got a bunch of side quests that I can do. I need to do a bunch of resource gathering, and I've got the main quest to worry about. Oh, I also need to go to my garden and harvest my materials. Oh, I need to go and synthesize items. And it gets to a point where you have so many things that you need to do every single day that it gets just to be a little bit too much.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, and it's not like any of that stuff is hard or any of that stuff takes so much time, but it's all stacked on top of each other. And again, they do try to streamline some of it, where you can restock in bulk, or you can send people off to gather things, or you can have people automatically garden for you. But even just managing those automations takes some time, and yeah, it gets just to be a little bit too much. Also, the characters that you're recruiting, the residents, they have personalities, but they're the most shallow of personalities. It's just oh, this is the shy one. Oh, this is the the upbeat one, and they don't really have interesting things to say. Like there's not a good reason to go and talk to them. They're not really contributing to your sense of the world, and so just again, it doesn't have to be like a crazy amount. I don't need them to tell me some secret mystery of the world,
story. Yeah.
but just a little bit more to make you care about who they are, not just numbers. I guess would help. Speaking about like just the amount of tasks that you're doing, Oasis does this sin that I really don't like in action RPGs or RPGs in general, where like just the day-to-day of keeping your Oasis up is already like a series of tasks that when you make your main quest, like there's a quest that I did where I needed to get this stone. I go and I talk to the person who has the stone, and they're like, well, I sold the stone to a merchant. I go to the merchant. The merchant says, well, I have the stone, but I need some seeds. Go get me the seeds. And then, like, you go and you get the seeds, and then there's other steps you have to do there where it's not just, like, go and get the stone. It's like, okay, in order to get the stone, you have to do these 3 other things to get to that point. And it just is like, we could probably condense some of this.
Down.
Yeah. But the combat is good. It's relatively simple. I mean, a lot of things are
It's like old school Zelda, just slashing.
Yeah, it's very much a traditional action RPG, Secret of Mana style, where they have a weak point. You wait for them to attack. You dodge. You hit the weak point. You get some additional combos as you go on, and different enemies are weak to different types of weapons. So that's another thing that you have to think about with your party members. It's not just skills and what they can harvest, but what weapons they're bringing in. Like you'll have flying enemies that are really annoying to deal with, and I only have one crossbow user right now, and so I need that crossbow user to take down these bats to do a bunch of damage to them. So yeah, it's cool. A lot of ideas.
Yeah,
and it's definitely fun seeing those ideas through. I just think the way that it manages all of it kind of unravels at the end. Like I'm getting to the point where I'm kind of ready to be done. Like those systems that were initially so engaging aren't quite as much anymore.
That's what Kyle was saying overall. Kyle in the Q&A was like, yeah, put like 10 or 20 hours into a game and just move on.
Yeah. Well, I'm reviewing it, so I can't.
It's tough.
Yeah. I'm like, if I'm putting 20 hours into a game, I gotta see it through.
Yeah.
But I think
I wish I could do that.
Games like that should have a slider basically where it's like one side of it is I don't want to manage any of this. I don't care. You know, and like you got to set it up at least. Right. And then the other slider is I want to manage all of that every single second of every day. And the bonus for me is like you were saying, like I get a little more health.
Yep.
It's easier to get items. Just makes the game easier. But I got to put that work in of just that redundancy of going back to the same activities day after day. And I think it's like allow people to not do that if they're like I don't need that edge. I'm fine. Like I can get that edge by just grinding or just like doing the action part because that's what I like more.
Well, that is actually a point that I want to bring up and a question I have for both of you, where I feel like the combat of the game. Again, I haven't finished it, but I feel like I'm close to the end. Where so far it's been so easy that I don't have to min-max. I don't have to have the absolute best equipment on anybody at all times. Like, as long as I'm pretty smart with my dodging and my healing, I've been able to get through the game just fine. And I was thinking, like, maybe this stuff that is now starting to get tedious wouldn't be as tedious if I felt the game pushing back against me a little bit more. It would make those things a little bit more interesting, make them feel a little bit more essential rather than just like something I have to check off.
Yeah.
Or is it good that I don't have to dig as deep into these mechanics?
Well, I mean, if the whole game is built around this, economy and this Oasis, I think it should push back. If the whole game is built around it.
Yeah.
Whereas something in like, again, I bring up Black Flag again, the ships. You don't have to go on all those ship missions and level up your character or your ship. You can just go straight through, but you will have an easier time if you do.
Right. Maybe do like once you beat a dungeon, you get that story thing that you need, and you can move on. But then maybe that unlocks another tier or something, or like adding stuff that we were talking about, not the type of towers you're expecting me to talk about, but like the multiple floors of a tournament that you're building up and fighting progressively more difficult things. Something that scales to the point of impossibility. It's like that's kind of a fun way for me to add difficulty to a game where it's like if I really wanted something just beat the hell out of me, just give me a mode I can jump into and get that.
Because I think about Dragon Quest Builders, which
I think about it too sometimes, man. I was like no joke. I thought about Builders unprovoked at some point Now that we haven't talked about Dragon Quest, have we? I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just when I was envisioning the world. I just saw myself building like my first like the castle.
Wait, are you saying that you thought we had already mentioned Dragon Quest?
No, when you were talking about when you're like, so you get this town in this oasis
Yeah.
and it's your own place. It's like
Yeah.
that's kind of what you do in Builders too. So like I just had that in my head.
Well, the reason I bring up Builders and why I think Builders is a better game is because like the combat in Dragon Quest Builders is horrendous. Like
It's not. Yeah.
okay, there's just nothing to it, I guess, is the thing that is a more
Not a
accurate
ton of
way of
depth.
saying that. Yeah, not a ton of depth. But it's okay because the building of the settlement, you just have so much creativity with it. Like where you put things and how you make it look, you can kind of add your own flavor to it.
Yeah.
And I think like by going deeper on that aspect, it's kind of okay that the combat is like it's still something worth noting. But in Ever Oasis, like how you arrange your bloom booths, your shops, like yeah, you can individualize it somewhat, but you're pretty locked on this narrow grid that you just kind of can switch where places are. You can't go crazy with how these individual bloom booths look or anything like that. And so it feels like a game where like the customization isn't crazy enough and the combat isn't quite deep enough that like it doesn't have that thing that Builders has where it's like, no, you can really get nuts with the building. Like it doesn't have that.
Is the Oasis in danger at all? Like is there?
Yeah. So the Oasis, every time you basically get to the next story beat that will unlock the next stone that will like the thing that you need to drive back the you need these 3 stones to drive back the chaos. And once you get close to getting one of those stones, the chaos will come and engulf your oasis. Whoa. And it's like, oh no, like people can't be happy with this going on. Like it's limiting the potential of your oasis. But the way that you address the chaos is you just go around and you have this ability where you create this little tornado and you have these chaos plants, and so you go and you uproot these chaos plants by using this ability. So you go to every single part of your oasis and uproot these chaos plants, and it's kind of fun the first time you do it, but by the third time, after your oasis has already been like has really expanded and gotten more complex and you already have all these other things to deal with, it's like, all right, now it's time to go and uproot all these plants once again. So yeah, just these things wear a little bit thin.
Trim the fat a little bit, and
yeah,
it would have helped a lot.
But it's hard. I feel like I've been so critical about this game, and I feel like those criticisms are valid. But it's a game that I would be super excited if they announced a sequel.
Yeah,
it's like there's a ton of good ideas here. It's occupying this space where it's like, yeah, there are a lot of negative things to say, but it doesn't take away from those ideas. And it's a game that I think in some way, if you have a bit of patience, I would still recommend to people. Like it's
nice.
there's
just
enough
on
going
3DS,
on there.
right?
Yeah, it's just on 3DS.
Maybe the sequel on Switch.
Yeah, especially if you see it like on sale or something. If
not gonna be on 3DS, I'll tell you
the
that
base
much.
building and the action adventure stuff, if that idea is appealing to you, like don't forget about it. Don't forget about
I love base building.
Swimming in sevens.
Swimming sevens. Probably over and swimming in the swimming part of the 7 pool.
The next game that I want to talk about, I don't want to go on for too long about it because I'm not that far, but I've just been enjoying it so much, is East Origin on PS4.
Curious about this.
Yeah. Huber. Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like a big dumb idiot. I need to say this up front. I'm a big dumb idiot because people have been asking me to play an East game for years, and I've been meaning to, and I don't know why. It's a series that I haven't been involved with before, but now that I'm playing East Origin, which a lot of people don't even like, and I'm not sure why they don't like it, because I'm not experienced with the series, because I love it. I think it's great.
They don't like the series, or they don't like
They
Origins?
don't like. There are people that don't like Origin, but I'm
Okay.
not sure why they don't like it.
Sounds
but
like
I
a
haven't
Monster-
played the other games to really understand why.
Sounds like maybe a Monster Hunter Worlds situation where they're doing something different in Origins, or
It's tough because I just don't have the knowledge of the series to really speak to it. I can only speak to Origin, and man, it's awesome.
Oh.
At first,
Is this the one we saw at the Bandai Namco
no.
event?
No. So this came out originally in 2006, I believe, on PC.
Okay.
So it's been out for a while, but this year, Daimu, who did the Wonder Boy remake,
Nice.
did a port of this to PS4, and it plays
Doing
so,
good
so
work.
well. Yeah.
Bringing those games back.
This is a one for one port. This is a 2006 game on PS4, or is it up-resed, or?
I'm not familiar with the PC version. So the world is polygonal, but your characters and the enemies are sprites. That's kind of the mix that they have going on. But it doesn't look like a bleeding edge game, but it has kind of a charming feel to it that I really like. And at first, I was just like, okay, this is cool. I'm just kind of running up to enemies and mashing square, and it's fine. And I thought it was just going to be a fairly typical action RPG experience. But then they gave me some skills, and I got a few boss fights under my belt. And after the first boss fight, I was like, okay, there's something here. And then by the third boss, I was like, no, this game is really, really smart.
Whoa.
Because the boss fights do such an excellent job. Like, one, they're just creative as hell. The first boss that you run into is this giant, like, machine thing that has these big sweeping attacks, and it'll put this green goo on the ground that will affect your movement. And you hit its arms to open up a weak point. You have to crawl up its arms to hit this weak point. But if there's green goo on the ground, you'll be slipping and sliding, and so you have to be aware of that. But what creates this green goo are like these little frog things. I'm not sure if they're frogs or not. These little green guys are running around and are creating these trails of green goo, and you need to kill them so they're not impeding your movement. But also, the boss has this attack where he'll suck you in, and he will suck in these little green creatures that he produces from his own body, and if he sucks them in, he'll heal. And you have all of these dynamics going on, but it never feels like too much. It's like, okay, I have to hit this thing, carefully climb up, hit its weak point, kill the green thing so I have enough, like, it's not impeding my movement, and he's not healing. And it's just, the game doesn't tell you that any of this is going to happen.
Yeah.
You just sort of figure out what's going on in the fight.
Nice.
And then another boss is this giant centipede that you have to climb on. You have to break off all of its individual components. But it also has these purple balls that will appear, and it'll create these green, like, areas that you can't go in.
Is this real-time combat?
Yeah, it's real-time combat.
Okay.
And it's just, the large point that I'm trying to get at is the game is just so mechanically interesting with these bosses. And then that carries over into the areas as well, where you'll get access to this dash and jumble dump, and then you're doing some cool platforming stuff. And then you have to go underwater, and you have to manage your breath. And it's switching constantly enough and being creative enough with the areas and enemies that it's introducing that I'm just really enthralled with it. Like, it's a ton of fun to play. And not only that, in Ys Origin specifically, there are 3 different characters who all play different and all contribute to the main story overall. Right up front, you have the choice between 2 characters. I'm just playing through one right now. And so I'm going to...
What's the premise?
So the premise is... basically, there was this prosperous land that was invaded by demons, and in order to get away from the demons, these 2 goddesses sort of like they lifted this tower off the ground, and the demons, to get to it, created their own tower to reach it. And the 2 goddesses that created this tower that are protecting everything, they've disappeared. And you're trying to figure out where they go. You're playing as sort of as this knight, or I'm playing as this sort of knight in training, Unica. And you realize that the only place that the goddesses could be is in this demon tower. And so you go in the demon tower, and you're looking for the goddesses. That's sort of your initial hook. But as you're going in, you realize that there are more factors at play with what's going on.
Is this a remake of an Ys game, or is this its own thing?
No, so this is a prequel. So this takes place before any of the other Ys games.
Got it.
And
those all have a continuous story?
Sort of. All of the other Ys games is you play it as the same character. It's sort of like each game is a different chapter in his journey.
Cool.
This is the only Ys game where you don't play as that main character in all of the other ones.
People are probably like bummed out.
Maybe that could be the reason. I'm not sure. And it sets up sort of the rest of them. Cool. So this is
they have
Ys Origin.
Ys 8, right? Was the last one?
So Ys 8 is coming out this year in North America.
Okay.
Yeah, coming out in September. So, right, that's the thing. Is it's kind of overwhelming. But why I started with Ys Origin is because it's the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
But
cool.
Yeah.
This sounds fun, Ben. This is another game that I would just love to play. Kind of like when Tales of Berseria came out.
Right.
I wanted to dive into that game, and it just slipped through the cracks.
Yeah, I mean, I know there are a lot of East games, but I think you should definitely give it a try. It plays great on PS4, and like the things that I'm talking about, the complexity of East, at least so far where I am, it's not like a bunch of stats that you have to worry about. It's just it's very easy to immediately understand and pick up, and it's more about the execution of how you're fighting versus like, okay, I need to understand this battle system, if that makes sense. So no, not really any towns at all. You're just kind of in this tower going up these different floors. Cool. So
nice.
Yeah, it's sort of a dungeon crawler in that sense.
Yeah, it's kind of sounds like it.
Yeah, I know you're big on town, so I hope that doesn't turn you away, but
no, I mean a dungeon crawler.
It's quite like towers, so you don't have to. He doesn't have to like every game. You know what I mean? You don't have to like every game, Huber.
Yeah.
It sounds like it'd be a little shorter than traditional.
I looked on how long to beat, and it said the main story took about 12 hours. So
yeah. Chill.
I would really like you to play it, Huber. Okay. I think you'd be into it.
Origins.
Before we move on to the next game, like, I want to. If I got any details wrong, feel free to correct me. I tried to do as good of a job representing that with where I am at the moment. Nice. But yeah,
newcomer to the franchise.
Complete newcomer to the franchise.
Awesome.
I will say, making me extremely excited for Ease 8.
Are you just gonna dive into 8 and not worry about the others?
I mean,
pretty bold move, Ben.
It is a pretty bold move, I guess, from a coverage perspective. Like, East 8 is going to be a new game, and my understanding is that you don't have to start with 1 or Origin to appreciate them. And I don't know, like, I'd love to do a review for East 8 because it's new and
dive right in.
Yeah, dive right in. You think it's a bad decision though, having not played the other ones?
It's your perspective.
Someone asked me if they should wait for Kiwami or play 0 first. And I said, Yakuza 0.
Right.
You know, just whatever's out.
Well, it's
just
different.
Jump in.
Yeah, it's different with Yakuza because my sense of East, and I could be totally wrong on this, is that it's sort of like you're hearing about the legends of this character, and it's like, okay, here's a different sort of isolated story for this character. Whereas Yakuza, it's like, no, this is Kazuma's story from beginning to end, and so it's a little bit more important. Like, what you learn in 0 is going to inform your experience of Kiwami. Not that you couldn't play Kiwami and appreciate it. And if that's what you want to do, if that's what you can do, go for it. Jump in.
Yeah, that's just what I'm trying to say. Is like, whatever's available, whatever you want to dive into.
There's no wrong answer.
There's no wrong answer. You know, you taught me that, Ben. Because I used to be hamstrung. It's like, oh, you know, I want to play this one, but haven't played the first 7 of them. Yeah. It's like, just dive in.
It's tough, though, because I think... Like, the diving in has been easy for me. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, Ease Origin is the beginning of the story. It's on PS4. I guess I bought it and already downloaded it. Let's boot it up. Let's give it a try. But now it's like, oh, man, I kind of love this.
I should go back.
I've got East 1 through 7 to deal with, and I want to play all of them. And it's like, I'm still in the beginning stages of my Trails love, and it's like, those are much longer games, it feels like. And, you know, I've got Trails in the Sky 1 through 3, and then Cold Steel, and
but just you diving into Origins rather than, even though it is a prequel, it came out later, rather than saying, no, I'm going to start with these 1 and go to 2 and 3. It's like you just dove in, and now since you found it and you appreciate it, you can make the choice if you want to just go into 8 or 1. So
yeah,
just dive in.
I have to wonder, do you think part of the reason? This is a dumb question. I'm aware it's a dumb question before I ask it. You think part of the reason East is sort of in the niche position that it's in is because of the name?
Yes. YS.
Do you think you just look at it and you go,
what is YS?
Yeah.
I've definitely had other franchises sold to me harder than East over the years.
You think so?
Yeah, it's just never there. It's got to be some like marketing too. They just don't have the marketing bucks.
Something like Valkyria Chronicles, like I know just Xenoblade. I just know a lot more of. I've just seen it around more. Like I don't know if that's just purely money or if that's like companies like a Nintendo or Sony like coming in and investing more and you know being like, this is a good thing to sell our system, and so using that like certain franchises.
So you think the
to
message,
appeal to
the message just hasn't been there?
I guess, yeah. It seemed like a very niche kind of thing, where it's just like you either know about that franchise or you don't. And it's like I don't know if I would take the risk to just kind of jump in there.
Hopefully, Origins and 8 can raise awareness, and then you know if it's a Yakuza 0 situation, blow it up.
Yeah.
Because you look at the Yakuza franchise now, and its presence, it's an increased presence versus, you look at that franchise from 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Then it was niche, but
Brendan, you're making me realize that Ys is a series that, because I wasn't actively playing it, I would forget that it existed sometimes, where I would have this situation where it's like, oh, I guess a new Ys game came out a few months ago. Like, that was kind of the position that it was in for me. And now what I feel is just a tremendous amount of guilt, where it's not just like, this isn't just a good game. There's really something here. There's a specialness to this where I understand why people are so into it. I understand why it has this following that it does, and I feel guilty for not giving it the time it so clearly deserved before.
We all have those games that we've bought and never played. I bought the PSP collection. I think it's 1 and 2.
Yeah, so there's 3 on PSP, I think. I think it's 1 and 2 Chronicles.
Yep.
The Oath of Felghana, I believe it's called. Mm-hmm. And then one more? I think there's one more on PSP.
I bought the 1 and 2 collection on PSP and never played it.
Yeah. Good
We've
intentions.
We've all got those games.
I bought a PSP and never played it. Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
I love the PSP.
I had a wonderful time with that system.
Did you?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
PSP.
Ys, man. It's good. I think once I get past this Ever Oasis review, and once that Trails in the Sky Don't Skip goes up, that is another game that I want to look at and hopefully can sell a little bit harder and a little bit better than I am right now. Mm-hmm. It was hard because I had enjoyed so much of what I'd played that I was like, I can't not speak about it on Frame Trap. Like, that's how attached to it I got.
Nice.
The last game that I want to talk about, a game sort of like Ever Oasis where I have conflicting feelings on, is ARMS.
ARMS.
The ups and downs of ARMS, man. Where I played...
The swings of ARMS.
Ooh. Yeah. This is a game we reviewed, and I'm excited to sort of bounce some ideas off you.
I know. Dude, Ben, when you started playing it, I was nervous.
You're nervous?
Because it's like, oh man, Ben's going to play this and have his own feelings, and it's like, what if I said something
Whenever
wrong?
Ben gets feelings about things, I just don't know.
It's like, what if Ben comes back and he's like, yo, Huber, like you said this about it, but like, oh, I didn't experience that. It's like, I'm nervous. I'm eager to hear what you think about ARMS.
I think the core of ARMS is good.
Yeah.
Pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And the problem that I have with ARMS is that everything else surrounding it, I don't enjoy at all. Like, I enjoy one-on-one ranked fights.
Yes.
Best of 3. It feels like the only way to play ARMS.
The only way.
And I've given a chance.
Or local one-on-one.
Or local one-on-one. Yeah. The one-on-one best
Yeah.
of 3 is definitely where it's at.
Yeah.
And it's I think ARMS is kind of what I want a dive kick to be, where I feel like it has a lot of the components that make fighting games really cool, where you have interesting mind games, you have different attributes of the fighters and how they play out, but it's never so complex. Like, ARMS doesn't really do a great job of telling you things, but it's okay because it's designed in such a way where you figure it out, where it's like, oh, I can easily punish after their whiff throw, or I can lead them on with this type of arm and then follow up here. And you just sort of have like those constant aha moments where it's like, oh, I feel like I'm learning and I don't really need to go to any outside resources to understand this.
Yeah.
Like even just learning when to block, or like, oh man, I keep blocking too long. That's why they keep getting those throws off. Like, there's enough to it that it's really interesting and really fun, and just moving around feels good. Like, I've gotten to a point.
Are you doing motion or
no?
Pro?
I'm doing controller.
Yeah.
I know people prefer motion. I totally don't. I feel like I just have a much greater sense of control, and am not fumbling.
I feel
with the
like
controller the way.
moving
Yeah.
is better with the controller, but punching is cool with motion. You know, it
Sure.
feels good to punch, but
And it's actually
hard to like move and block. Like, it confuses me.
I kind of agree with you. I think it's easier to kind of curve things with the motion controls than it is with the sticks. But I think movement is even more important.
Yeah.
And because movement feels better with the Pro Controller, that's what I've been doing. And yeah, I don't know. We were talking about characters and how some characters are better than others. Like, I think Twintel is like a top tier character easily. Mm-hmm. But what I like about ARMS is any character that I pick, I feel like if I'm playing better, I still have a chance. I don't think the things that make those characters top tier are so outlandish that they can't be overcome with solid play. Mm-hmm. And I like that. I like that a lot. I don't know if you agree with that.
I think all the characters felt so similar.
Aside
from like weight, you know, I feel like you have your light characters and your heavy characters, and you know, each character has like a one
honestly,
special ability. I like Ribbon Girl's jumping.
Yeah,
that's advantageous.
Right.
Shikamaru's like dash.
Ninjara?
Yeah, Ninjara.
Yeah.
I call him Shikamaru. His like dash is cool.
I mean,
but I still feel like the core is so similar.
It is and it isn't. I guess just for me on paper, like especially when I was first playing ARMS, when I was doing the test punch, and I didn't really have the time or opportunity to figure out like, okay, what makes everybody unique and why does that matter? But like you say,
subtle differences.
Yeah, but those subtle differences I think are huge. Like Twintel's ability to slow down the punches has a huge effect on how you play that character.
And that's the thing. It's like aside from those subtle differences, they all feel the same. But like you look at that versus Master Mummy.
Right. Getting
10 extra health for blocking long, but then they can just like grab you.
I do think Master Mummy's healing is kind of whatever and not that essential, especially when you have like healing items drop down that are pretty dramatic. I will say though, like, him doing 200 damage for a throw, that's a big deal. Sure. That can have a huge impact on the match, depending on how good you are at throwing and how.
But even some of the characters do like 170. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, but all of that stuff, I feel like I've seen it matter. I've seen it matter in the match.
Yeah.
To where like it's definitely I don't feel. I'm at a point with ARMS where it feels like it very much matters who I'm picking. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like it's just the gloves. And I like the way the gloves work, like taking the time to charge them up to get that effect and what that effect does.
Do you think it matters, though, because, like Twintel, some abilities are just straight up better than others? Like, isn't that way... Like, slowing down punches, isn't that way more valuable than, like, Shikamaru getting a little extra dash? Like, everyone can dash. He dashes a little more. Like, slowing down punches is... You know, Rocket Man or whatever, gets like his gloves on fire or whatever when he's low on health. I think
what I'm trying to say is, as I'm agreeing with you, like Twintel's special ability is just straight up better than other abilities, and yes, that matters. But it was never so broken that I couldn't beat it with another lesser character, and like. We were talking about Master Mummy doing more damage with the throw, where like that's not as great as some other characters' things, but it's still valuable, and I could still apply it and would still have an effect. Like all of that stuff matters.
I think he gets like flinch or whatever. He does the flinch, for sure.
And that plays into it as well. And like I'm okay with it not being perfectly balanced as long as I feel like the components that they're introducing like do have an effect and do matter. Yeah. Like to me that in itself is a pretty
and you can never expect a fighting game or any game to be so balanced straight out of the gate. Like it takes time. So
but the thing is with ARMS is as much as I'm enjoying the fighting, I don't think that game justifies its price tag. Like that story mode is the most basic thing ever, and I do not enjoy any of the other modes really all that much. Like some are better than others, definitely.
I really like Hoops.
I like Hoops too, is fun. But I'm not booting up ARMS to play Hoops, right?
Totally.
Right, where you're like, okay, this is way better than like Target Smash, but I'm not seeking it out. And 2-on-2 or any like this game feels like the way that the camera is positioned anytime you're fighting against more than one other person, it's hard to get a read of what's going on.
There's no way.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's no way.
And so it's hard in a game where like I want to think about what I'm doing. I want to have careful punches. Where it just feels like a madhouse, even with other people who know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I do not like the idea of like, okay, this person got thrown, and I'm attached to them, therefore suddenly I'm getting interrupted. I'm getting punished for their mistake. Like that works if we have 4 people together, or like I'm playing with you in the same room, we can talk to each other, but it's just an absolute mess with a random person online. It's not a good way of
2-on-2 free for all mess.
And so because all of that extra stuff isn't doing it for me, I think it makes me wish like, I wish there were a few more characters or a few more stages. And so it, I don't know.
Because again, you're talking about that one-on-one fighting is solid. Like there is such a solid foundation there.
Yeah.
But everything around it, like 3-on or 2-on-2 or free-for-alls or all those extra mini games are just not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
It puts even more of a focus on that one-on-one fighting to justify the price tag, to have the longevity, to have the long-term investment. And, you know, the lack of fighters, the lack of stages, just the lack there. You know, a lot of people compared it to Splatoon right out of the gate of Splatoon building as time went on. But it's like, as a consumer, is that how I want to buy my game and engage in my game? Buying something for long term? It's a conversation. I don't know.
It's funny because people kind of...
Like, is this early access? Is this considered ARMS early access in a way?
Right. I've seen people try to reflect a lot of the ARMS criticism where they're like, man, Splatoon was supported so well. They really built up that game, and they did.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. But when a criticism of Splatoon was, hey, there's not quite enough here, okay? Splatoon, in my opinion, had way more in it.
The story mode was cool.
The story mode on its own,
Yeah.
I really liked that story mode. Like, there are things I think it could have done better. I think it could have been a little bit bigger. But that story mode was way more interesting than any of the other elements, than all of the other elements in ARMS combined.
The hub world?
Yeah.
Like, where's the hub world in ARMS?
Right.
Just a place where, like, all the fighters are hanging out. Like, it doesn't need to be big. It's not. We're not talking Assassin's Creed. Just a small little area where I can go explore some shops, some back alleys, talk to, like, a glove salesman.
Right.
Little carnival games. Like, you know, what if you booted up hoops by going to the basketball court?
Sure.
Like,
just adding a little bit more of a sense of place to it. Yeah.
Well, it's like, there's like a mode, like a horde mode, you know, where like all the skeletons are coming out at you, and they're just like, oh, we'll put it in that arena that you can also fight in. And it's like, have that be in its own place, you know, have that him be like defending his home or something, or like just a little more flavor there.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just if your counterpoint is, hey, they're gonna build it out. Well, it's like, no, but there's not enough here at the beginning, like to a pretty severe degree, and this is like that first impression matters to me. Like, as somebody, this is not going to be everybody, I understand, but for me personally, it's like, I can wait for ARMS to slowly build out, but by the time that it does, or if it does, like, I'm just going to keep playing Tekken 7 or Injustice, or like, this is a competitive space right now. And it's, you know, it's not just other video games, it's other fighting games that are packed with things to do, or are more interesting, or have more depth to them. Like, that's where my time is going to come. And I think the reason that I'm so frustrated with it is, at its core, I really like ARMS. And I want that first impression to be better, because I truly believe like something is there.
Yo, what are your thoughts on the V-Ball?
Again, it's okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay.
I
Little
think,
behind the curtain, you know, we're easy allies, we're transparent.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, the review process, it goes through Bloodworth.
Gulp.
Yeah.
You're fine. Everyone's fine. No, I think this is interesting. People like to know how we do reviews. They like to know the process.
Sure.
Yeah.
V-Ball was a area, for whatever reason, Bloodworth was like pushing back on. He was like, yo, I think there's something there to like V-Ball. I think there's more than you're giving it credit for, because in the review I was like, yo, V-Ball is random. It's not good. It's all luck. Like, you're just spamming. So I thought that was an interesting area for like Bloodworth to like champion V-Ball.
Try again.
Yeah,
Huber.
But I wanted to know your opinion, because like your Ben's Dojo fighting
Yeah.
man. Did I miss something in V-Ball? Like, is there something there?
Okay, here's beyond it's just okay. Here's a more elaborate thought on V-Ball. Is for a mini game, there is some strategy to it. How you hit the ball, how you're coordinating, like the direction that you're hitting it. Like you are using the mechanics of the arms in volleyball, and it's fine, but it doesn't have nearly the depth of the fighting itself. And I think I'm not that interested in a V-Ball because there aren't other ways, like there's not enough application of the fighting itself. Like the 2-on-2, the like fighting against the headlock guy, like all of that stuff. Like I want ARMS to put a better focus on the fighting rather than playing volleyball.
Totally.
Like I don't know.
Yeah. I thought the space was too small for it to even matter where you hit the ball. Then there's the timer, so it's like, all right, whoever just happens to get that last hit when the timer runs out, the ball just drops. So I thought it was just so random, like total Mario Party style luck. Whoever is in the right place, right time, wins that. So
yeah,
strange game. ARMS.
Strange game.
Get even.
I want better. I want
Corner
more
game.
for it. I want more for it.
Yeah. Do we think, do we think down the road ARMS will be what we want it to be, or are we going to have to wait till ARMS 2? Brandon Jones.
I mean, how much does Splatoon 1 look improved going into Splatoon 2? I mean, is that a sign of them really wanting to invest? Like, they had an ARMS tournament at E3, so like that was promising that like they didn't just leave that behind at E3 and focus on things that like, well, we want to focus on stuff that hasn't come out yet.
I actually thought I watched the grand finals of that ARMS tournament and I was like, this was pretty fun to watch.
Sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Well, guys,
But the changes you want probably won't be until next one.
New IP though, you got to give them a little.
Oh sure, especially new console, trying that motion control thing still. That would be a coup maybe if ARMS 2 was like, all right, stop, sorry.
well, the thing is
not that it's not fun, but like if we take the motion controls out and just focus on the controller, we can make it that. We can make movement and make stuff just like a little more exact.
it's really the price that they're asking for ARMS. I think I would just be sitting here gushing about it if it was a $20 game. But
You again, you were talking about so many fighting games. You stack it next to Injustice 2 with the roster, the story
and this is
mode,
the same price.
the
Is that basically what you're saying?
multiverse.
Like
Yeah,
I don't know.
price.
Is ARMS $60?
$60,
right? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's no question.
is it 60 or 50?
Okay, it might be 50.
I think it's 50.
Yeah, so $50.
This is important and we want to split it up. But yeah, it's weird because one comments that I receive about games sometimes that frustrate me is it's like, well, it doesn't have this thing that every other game has. And it's like, well, I don't necessarily think a game needs to be a collection of features.
Absolutely.
I think you can execute on one thing really, really well, and that's enough. But it just depends on the depth of that thing, and it feels like even the one-on-one fighting. Oh no, you're right, Huber.
60.
Holy shit!
$60.
It's $60 on Amazon.
Crazy.
That is way too much.
Yeah. We're
We're actually spoiling this week's HOTTAKE!
Oh!
No build up this time. Going right into it. ARMS and Injustice directly inspired this conversation.
Whoa.
I want to leave you guys into it.
We're prepped.
Justifying the price. At what point does a game justify $60? Like what? Why?
Oh my god.
Why can't? How does genres affect that? How does DLC affect that? How do free updates affect that?
Definitely want to.
How important is it that a game justifies $60, and how do games do that differently? And just personally speaking, how do you feel about the price tags of games? And I think we want to start with ARMS.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just saying with ARMS that there's not enough in it, and what is there isn't long lasting enough. Do you think I said that I would be probably ranting and raving about ARMS if it was $20?
Yeah.
Do you feel that way? Do you feel like you'd be ranting and raving about ARMS if it was $20?
Yeah, I would be way more forgiving of it. We were talking about Overwatch heavily today.
Yeah, Overwatch is a game I wanted to bring up in this.
And yeah, absolutely, because that is $60 game for what? There's no campaign. There's like they've added the arcade mode and stuff and brawling and one-on-one, but for all intents and purposes, it's mostly the same thing.
Didn't launch with rank mode.
But the comparison I want to make, I was bringing up that ARMS, the characters feel so similar. I know we're crossing genres here, but you look at Overwatch.
Yeah.
You look at all of those characters. That feels like 20 different video games in one. You're talking about Reinhardt and playing as Reinhardt, the movement, blocking, my mentality, my objective changes. It's like, all right, I'm going to defend my team. I'm going to block. I'm going to charge him with this and bash him with my hammer.
Right.
Versus, all right, I'm going to play as Torbjorn. Like, I'm going to hang back. I'm going to start building things. Or, I'm going to be Hanzo. I'm going to start climbing walls and sniping people. Like, that is so many different skill sets and things you need to learn.
It's essentially you can switch mid-match, too.
Yeah, you can.
That's
and it's like so many games in one. Whereas the main thing I brought up with ARMS about characters feeling the same, your objective and your flow is so similar. You're there, you block, you hit, you grab. You have a little bit of special move, whatever, but you're doing the same thing.
Something I want to bring about with Overwatch, and I'm doubting myself with it, but I think it's also true. Like, the easy game to be like, oh, here's a game that clearly justifies its price tag is Injustice 2. I mean, they've really knocked it out of the park with just the sheer amount of stuff that you can do and how many different types of players they're catering to. A game that doesn't quite do that as well, but I like even more, is Tekken 7. The story mode in Tekken 7 has some problems with it, but that was the first thing that I started with. And it was something that grounded me in that game, where it was like, oh, okay, here's why these characters exist. Okay, I'm switching up as a bunch of different type of people. I'm kind of getting a sense of different play styles. Like, even though it wasn't perfect, I still greatly appreciated that it was there.
Totally.
And I still, to this day, wish there was a story mode in Overwatch. I understand that they've done outside things with videos and that those characters have solid personalities, but just that grounding experience for me with Overwatch didn't happen. And to me, even though Tekken 7 could have more things in it, that story mode in and of itself justified the price a lot better than any of the extra stuff in ARMS.
Yeah, because when you finish it, you feel like you completed something.
Right.
Just that simple fact that you put in X amount of hours. It's like, all right, I haven't even really got to the game yet. This whole thing kind of feels like a bonus, like getting my money's worth just on this. Now I can fully dive in. Right. And like you said, just about the characters, like finishing campaigns in fighting games helps me relate and connect to these characters. It makes me more invested in the world, more invested in the game, more forgiving of the money spent. I feel more rewarded as a player. Whereas ARMS, why do I care about these characters? Like, I just spent $60. Why do I even care about them? Like, give me a reason. Like, they look awesome.
And
they have so much
some
personality.
people won't care ever. Never, ever care. Doesn't matter what fighting game or what sports game or what multiplayer game I'm playing. Like, I don't care. I'm all about gameplay.
Yeah.
I don't need to know their backstory. I don't care what that little sash they wear, where they got that. Don't care. Like, the environment, why I'm in Hollywood right now in Overwatch, don't care. But, like, I might. And so if you don't care, like, that's awesome. Like, you're not gonna have to worry about a lot of things in games if you can just be that carefree to just kind of jump in. But I get the sense, and it's tough because with something like Overwatch, we've said so many positive things about it, but like, it is an extremely bare bones game, and it's difficult because I think Blizzard can have the confidence to release a game like that, where they're like, this is a game you jump into and you play lots of multiplayer of. That is the way you play Overwatch. There's no other way to game it. There's no other way to like get your own little slice of Overwatch. Like, that's what it is. And I think because like that that's probably why I stayed away from it for so long. Is like that's not my favorite thing. Like that was a lot of fun. It's just like that's not where I automatically gravitate toward. And the places I automatically gravitate toward, I'm already backlogged. So it's just like it would take a lot for me to step out of my comfort zone. But you have something like Injustice where they clearly like we're not gonna settle for just that. Like I want to put things in here. I even remember, I can't remember if it was Mortal Kombat versus DC or Injustice 1, where they had the weird like missions you would go on. I remember there's one with Catwoman where you had to like jump over
Injustice
like
1.
like lasers and
Stars
stuff.
Lab.
Yeah, and there were all these crazy like, and some were dumb and some were really exciting, but it was just like this sense of discovery going through that. And like it's not better than the most amazing competitive moments I've had playing that game versus other people online.
Yeah.
It's just something else. It's just something, it's like if I had that was the best steak I've ever had in my life, but it was just the steak on the plate. It's like, versus like that other plate where it's like, yeah, that steak wasn't that good, but like, man, it had this, like vegetable salad on the side and I had some, baked potato or something. Like, it's just a matter of how much I know the most of the people that are going to buy my product are going to be happy with just the thing that they got.
Right.
And so when you have something like a Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare or like a Fable Legends, that you're like, cool idea, but man, I don't know if people are going to be willing to jump in to just do that, to like just do that one experience, if that's worth like a week even of just going back to and trying to get better at.
With those specific examples with Fable Legends and Garden Warfare, are you saying fans of where those games came from may not be willing to make that jump, or that those games on their own aren't offering enough?
Just that hook. It's like that desire to be the best plant you can be and customize your world.
Right.
That's it. Like that's it. Like literally like there's a hook. and like when you have something like Overwatch, when you have as much people that love Blizzard, as hungry as people are for that type of game right now, and how excellent it is across the board, from the sound to the visuals to the gameplay.
Right.
That one hook is enough. That what like maybe it's not as attractive enough to bring outside people like me, but once that hook gets into you, like it's very hard to pull yourself away from it.
Overwatch right now.
Whereas so many of these multiplayer experience and Evolve, For Honor, a Skull and Bones, which hasn't even come out yet, it seems really fascinating, but it is so niche that it's like, am I gonna do that for a long amount of time, or is that just gonna be something where like, oh yeah, I jumped in and.
I want to talk about the X factor too. The something you can't quantify really.
Sure.
Is the feeling of the budget.
Yeah.
You play Overwatch and you feel it.
Right.
Like I can't put my finger on it, but you play Get
Right.
Even.
You said it was bare bones, Jones, but it's like it's so
right.
You just feel like, whoa, this is quality.
Yeah.
I'm buying
Like
filet
directed,
mignon right now.
focused.
Yeah. A thing that I wanted to mention
There's no volleyball mode in Overwatch. You know what I mean? Like,
about fighting games, there doesn't need. Yeah. Anyway, the thing I want to mention about fighting games that I think that first I want to say the criticism, and then I want to like present the other side of that. I feel like the reason why Injustice 2 is getting a lot of praise is because Multiverse, like while you can compare it to like Challenge Towers and Mortal Kombat and stuff, it kind of feels like this cool new thing.
Yeah, this
it's
like RPG.
Here's this new way
long-term-
to play a fighting game, and you're just like, I think that's why so many people are praising it and gravitating towards it. And there needs to be more of that. Like, it's come out with a fighting game, and it's like, yes, it's great that there's versus and online and arcade mode, but give me some weird new way to play your game. And that's something actually the Soul Calibur series has done a very good job of. But then I immediately realized that making a fighting game that has the depth that can compete with other things on the market is so difficult in and of itself that finding time to flesh out these other modes to the point where they're worthwhile in championing is extremely difficult. And I'm not sure, like, that's a thing that people criticize about fighting games is they're like, I want more single player stuff. And it's like, well, just making the fighting game in and of itself is so difficult. How do we find the budget and time to do those other things that people are clamoring for? Not everybody has the resources of NetherRealm.
With ARMS, though, it feels like they didn't know what they wanted to be. It's like, are you going for this hardcore competitive, we're esports,
Sure.
We only care about one-on-one these mechanics, or are you selling me this like, hey, couch friendly, have grandpa come in, we're gonna play some 2-on-2 ARMS. So I think the messaging was off, because on one hand it's Nintendo, so you're kind of expecting family friendly group game. You know, they praise that it's 4-player split screen, not common nowadays. But if you're going to go down that road, then you should have more deviations, like a single player, like a multiverse type thing. You know, if you're only going to really focus on your one-on-one ranked mode, it better be damn good, and you better send the message that we're an esports hardcore fighting game rather than an all-encompassing, like, hey, everyone come play ARMS. So I think the marketing and the messaging was off.
ARMS isn't catering to any one audience particularly well.
Yes. I think it tried to do two different things.
Does that kind of answer the question as well, that it's about focus? Is it because Overwatch has such good focus that it hasn't received more criticism or outcry about its price tag or microtransactions?
There was some outcry in the beginning, I remember.
There
A lot of
was.
people
There
were bummed
was.
there was no campaign.
But it's also hard not considering Overwatch overwhelming success.
Yes. Yeah. Overwatch is a sticky situation because, again, it's that Blizzard feel, you know, and they have a reputation. It's like if Rockstar came out with a multiplayer-only game and there was only multiplayer or something and there was no campaign, everyone's like, what? But it's Rockstar. It's super good, you know.
Right.
Would it get criticism? So I'm wondering if there's part of a legacy there, whereas ARMS is a new IP.
Yeah.
So we're going to hold it up to that microscope.
Brandon,
I also think, like, how, you know, like, you've played ARMS.
Yeah.
You've played ARMS. Have you played ARMS together?
No, but I did get to play with Dawn and Kyle both.
Wow. But I think, like, playing Overwatch together, there's no question. You know, it's like, of course we're going to play that game together.
Yeah.
You know, so, like, I think, and I don't know if this is just how many players that, like you were saying, ARMS is better, and I have not played ARMS at all, just for reference,
Yeah.
but, like, ARMS is more better 1v1,
Right.
whereas Overwatch, obviously, is at its best and only exists in a giant,
Right.
chaotic, all for one for all,
Right.
Multiplayer arena sense. And so I think in ARMS, you are creating the spectacle 100% of the time, whereas in Overwatch, from my very limited experience, and even just watching it, it's like, oh my god, that I wasn't even a part of that, and that was amazing, you know,
Right.
like that cool thing that I just saw.
Yeah,
and
that's
easier to make
psychological
friends
aspect.
and easier, like the vibe. I think the thing that most surprised me about Overwatch, in not having a campaign, wasn't that, like, shooters just need to have a campaign. It was like, clearly you've done the work. Like, clearly there is a humongous story going on here, lots of context. Like, I don't think I'm just Hollywood just cuz, but I don't know. Like, I don't have that frame of reference. So it surprises me that there's not, you did just this crazy amount of character development and then just stopped and kind of pushed that stuff to the side.
Have you watched the cutscenes, the cinematics?
I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen several. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's like only 3 or 4, I think, for them.
It's such a good point because, like, if I were to message Huber and say, hey, let's play ARMS, it's like, okay, ARMS is at its best when we're going 1v1, and so we're doing this very stressful, like, me against you, who is better thing, whereas in Overwatch, not that it's not stressful, not that you don't have really tense moments
that
constantly,
co-op.
but because you're working together as a team, you know, you have that sense of cooperation, I think, is
Enough.
friendlier
Yep.
than...
It's how I play StarCraft 2, you know, and
Right.
and
You're not doing 1v1s,
Yeah.
you're doing 2v2s, 3v3s,
yeah,
4v4s.
there's a campaign and arcade and all that, but even
Right.
if StarCraft 2 was just multiplayer, which is the bulk and the meat of that game, the fact that I can team up with a buddy
Right.
or 2 or 3, that creates different matches every single time because we're together, we're talking about different things, we plan different strategies together.
So does that ease of access or that group dynamic play into our perception of what we're willing to pay for?
It's more depth. I think they added in Overwatch, if you meet a person in a hallway and have a 1v1 match, it will be memorable. It will be based on skill entirely. And you'll learn something about yourself. You'll learn something about your opponent. You'll come out about a better player. Same goes for if you bumped into 5 people. If there were 5 people on your side and then you bumped into 5 other people. Whereas, like, again, it sounds like ARMS is that 1v1 money, and then when you bring 4 people in there, it's functional, but it's it's not like, clearly these were not the matches that were played the most in the development of this game.
Right.
Like, they just kind of added 4-player because why not? Totally. Whereas, like, that,
It just sort of feels there.
all the multiple different layers of how combat situations can play out in Overwatch have been thought of and tested intensely for many, many, many months.
Yeah,
Before we even knew the game existed, it was like you played it right after it was announced, and it was like, damn, release this
Release it
today.
now.
Like, it just seems like they knew their audience a little bit better. Whereas with ARMS, it's just kind of like, new console, crazy game, crazy mechanics, but not necessarily like that deep depth where they're like, people are going to live here for months now. Yeah. And I think it's the fandom that's kind of pulling people toward ARMS, the pride of having this crazy new console, and not necessarily an experience, even at its best, that's layered like Overwatch is. Where if you bring in we just had a cool match. If we were all playing different characters, it would in no way resemble that match at all. Whereas in ARMS, I bet that opponent I played against is probably going to be as tough if they just swap out another random character.
I think we hit something with the ability to co-op.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing that widely gets unmentioned, I guess, when talking about fighting games. You look at like Injustice or Tekken. Like, are there 2v2s in that or 3v3s or anything like that, or no?
In Tekken?
Yeah.
No. I mean, in Tekken Tag, which
Tag,
is kind of its own offshoot thing, but in base Tekken, no, it's about those 1v1 fights.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, Injustice doesn't have like co-op, but it does have the multiverse.
Right.
And like, give me something else. There's got to be
you
just
even have that sort of cooperative element in Injustice with the guilds. You're all working in something, and so the thing you're doing individually contributes to a larger whole and creates that.
It's just like maybe this is like a sickness that I have, and maybe this is like not a good thing for human beings to develop.
Yeah.
But like, you give me some dumb meters that I need to fill, and like, I'll fill them. Like, you have if I'm going through menus and there's just some back thing that's like, oh, we're tracking that actually, and if you get 100 more of those, we'll give you this dumb little thing that you don't want. And like, well, now I want it because I didn't know you were tracking me, and I didn't know you were counting that. And so like, it's just that like. It makes me feel like I've arrived somewhere and like, oh, like this is a place I want to hang out. Like Injustice, like this is a community I want to spend some time in. I want to see what weird, Jokers and Banes and, Captain Colds like people build. Like I want to, see like varied skill levels and like the way different environments. I want to see I still haven't seen all the special abilities, and like I want to explore all that stuff, versus, just going into a game and understanding it right away. And thinking,
there's
like,
even
I can make myself
moves.
look different, but that's about it.
There's even special moves you can unlock for each character that like, are different, that you don't start out with. You have to unlock those. There's a ton of those. Whereas ARMS, you get all the gloves right out of the gate. Every fighter, there's 10 fighters. Each of the fighters has 3 gloves, and there's 30 gloves. So you're not really unlocking anything. There's no real progression.
And I even I felt bad because I cut the review that Huber wrote, and there were even moments where I can't remember what you called them. It was like the bop sit or something. You were like, this is my favorite thing, and I almost grabbed clips like twice because I'm like, oh, there it is, and I'm like, no, wait, that's called the flop sit. Never mind. It's like you had one that was like a homing missile, and like there were like 4 or 5 arms that did the same exact thing, but I was like, no, he called it the homie. I thought, there it is. Like, and it took me a while, so I got fooled by things that were supposedly like different arms in that game. So
shifting it away a little bit from fighting games, Brennan, you're somebody that likes big worlds that you can explore for hours on end and get lost in and not rush through, and you also like character progression and building somebody up and seeing them evolve over time, and those I think the games that you love the most have so much meat on them. Does that affect how you view other games that are charging the same amount that have so much technically less in them?
View them from a critical standpoint, or view them as something I want to experience myself?
I guess like from a pure value proposition, where it's like I'm more willing to immediately invest time and money in this because there's so much there, versus this other thing that might be completely unique, but there's just not as much meat on its bones. Is that a mentality that you fall into? I
don't try to get that subjective, because I've had people tell me, I played GTA 5 for a couple hours and I got bored, and I'm like, okay. Like,
sure.
That is very, very, very difficult for me to imagine. Like, what I would have, I want to get in a time machine and go back and watch you play that game and see the exact moment where you were like, nah. Like, see that cutscene you thought was dumb, or that character you met that just didn't excite you in some way. But it's like, right. I mean, talk about a game that has stuff, to do. And so, yeah, when you have something like that, when you have just, you're walking into a cafeteria, and you're like, there's nothing to
Yeah.
eat here. You know, it's like cool. That and like I'm not saying you're wrong if like literally none of that is of interest to you. So it's, you know, people can play the dumbest things for hours and hours and hours. I have played the dumbest things for hours and hours. I saw you talk about the Cookie Clicker or something. Where did that come up?
Yeah.
Did you play Clicker Heroes?
Yeah.
There's a game called Clicker Heroes. I played for, you know, back at GT, I always had a browser open and Clicker Heroes running, like,
That
stupid. Like, a game that is actively in your
Right.
face, playing on these stupid hangups that we have of just becoming addicted to just seeing little meters go up. And so it's tough to say, yeah, this game that wasted my time is so much better than that other game that wasted someone else's time. But yeah, to me, it's all about, it has a lot to do with expectations. Kind of like I was saying, like you have Injustice, who, you know, it's like, you know, NetherRealm has a core audience that's been following them. Like it's interesting and fascinating to imagine Mortal Kombat people would be like, all right, I guess I like DC Comics now. It kind of forced me to, you know, because this is like, you've really explored like, you know, these games for a while versus ARMS, like new IP, new console, new control setup. Whereas like this is the third DC movie they've made, so like it was a game they've made. So like I think they have a little more of an edge as far as like evolving the fighting style that they've developed and understanding like more of our community. Our community is going to get obsessed with this thing. Whereas ARMS, I think there's like maybe a little more of a disconnect there between like we don't know who's going to discover this game and find it, and then even something like Splatoon 2 making a lot of smart decisions about like playing more to their base. So I think the only time I get opinionated, to answer your question, is when I see a company clearly misjudging their audience. You know, like making the wrong type of game for the wrong type of group of people that would most likely gravitate towards it and find
Federation Force.
Yeah.
Sure.
Which, if you jump into Federation Force and it's got like single player campaign, co-op mission, there's like a Spec Ops mode in like Federation Force, and like I was wrong, you know. But like, yeah, from just looking at it, like that doesn't look like as deep of a thing that its fans would want.
Small little tangent. You mentioned like NetherRealm people being like, I guess I'm into DC Comics now. I was watching a show that I absolutely love and you should seek out. It's a new show called The Recipe, where Sajam and this guy named Tasty Steve, these commentators, they play different fighting games together, and they're just the most charismatic, hilarious people. Like, it's just a joy to watch them play these fighting games that they're really good at. Seek that out. It's fantastic. He was saying that he played Injustice. It was like the first game that he got really into competitively, and it got him into DC. He had like no love or knowledge of DC until that point, and I always love when that happens.
And I feel bad because I saw some people that were just like, Firestorm, who the hell's Firestorm? And it's like, exactly.
Right.
You know, like, they get that.
Yeah.
They know they're throwing Blue Beetle at you, and you're like, what? You know, and they're talking about, I'm going to take your Scarab. And they're like, what? Right. Who? And like, I love that. Like, that's like, I like that they put like Atrocitus. I was like, Atrocitus, right.
Yeah.
Haven't heard that name in a while. It's great.
I mean, I remember when Fire Emblem was coming out in GBA, I don't know if I would have been as interested in that game if Ryan Marth hadn't been in Smash Brothers. You know, like that. I love it when games introduce you to other games or whole different ideas. Another thing that I wanted to throw at you, Brandon, with you're talking about. Huber, I'm having a brain fart. There was a question that I had for Brandon.
Yeah.
That was so good.
Oh, no.
Something
And then
about
I got-
worlds.
It was something about open worlds.
Something about open worlds.
Oh, you were talking about the subjective nature of how it changes our idea of how valuable or interesting a game is. Yes, thank you. Oh, keeping me on track.
We got it.
I remember, so I'd been playing Dragon Quest Builders, and I knew that you had loved it. But I hadn't seen what you'd been making. And then I went and I saw either your stream or I came over and you had it on the screen. I was like, oh my God, he's so much better at this. Like, he's so much better at designing and building things than I am. And it made me realize that our own skills affect how we enjoy something, right? To a tremendous degree. And you think about the fighting game community, right? Where they have an understanding of these mechanics in this community, and so a game that just plays really, really well and works well online, that's all they're interested in anyway.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And so to them, that they know that they're going to be spending a large amount of time on something that they want so badly and they understand so thoroughly.
And a lot of times when a game finds its own audience, and that audience might not be like the audience that's pushing something out to the absolute forefront of our industry where everybody's talking about it, but it's
Right.
still surviving, and we kind of lament like, oh, I wish that franchise was growing a little faster than it should. And it's like, maybe it just can't, maybe it just, it found its audience. They like it. It's just enough people to support the company. It's great. It's kind of like us, it's like, they're making it.
Don't you think that's a danger though? Because there have been things.
I mean, it's scary, sure. I mean, yeah, every game is a risk. That's why I'm not making video games. That's terrifying.
I remember years ago, the internet and people's opinions in it, they were Final Fantasy fans that were dismissive of Shin Megami Tensei, where they're like, it's cool that you like this, but it's just for this niche fan base. It will never blow up. And then Persona 4 happened, and now Persona 5 has happened, and that's sold more than 1 million copies. Like, it's like, yes, I guess it's still relatively niche compared to some other things, but compared to where it once was, no way, it's really blown up. And I don't like that mentality. I don't like that mentality of, well, this is his audience. That's where it's going to be forever if the quality is there. If there's something that just hasn't been communicated quite right yet. I think that's true of Trails in the Sky. I think that the audience for that series could be much bigger. I think maybe I'm getting the sense that could potentially be true for Ys. Like,
That's why Blizzard is...
Yakuza as well.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my god, yeah. Yakuza 0.
Yeah.
That's why Blizzard is one of the best in the biz, because they somehow cater to every single human on Earth, whether you're the most insane competitive player or you just want to hop in as Reinhardt and block some bullets.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they do it. They're wizards. They're magicians. But, they somehow scratch all the needs of the masses.
I mean, what Blizzard does, though, is they take games that were, I think, a little bit more arcane in some ways, and they take those mechanics and they break them down to their essential components so more people can appreciate them. But sometimes I think what happens is people are just scared of something that isn't familiar. Where, like, here's a new type of game, or here's a new concept, or here's a new story that you don't know you're gonna love until it happens. Like, I remember my perception of visual novels, right? Where I was like, why would I ever want to do this? Why would I ever want to read a game? It sounded like a really boring thing that was super, super, super niche. And I realized that these are not necessarily pure visual novels, but Zero Escape and Danganronpa, like, I love them. I want to sing to the heavens about these series, and I didn't know I wanted it until I gave it a chance, and I do think that sometimes we need to just take that leap, but it's hard, again, going around to price where
$60
it's like,
leap.
right, that's a $60 leap, for sure. So is the answer then to take these leaps, but to be smart about them, to look for those Steam sales, to encourage these things to come to more platforms?
I really think you touch on something with multiplayer and co-op, or if you don't have that, finding another way to engage your game. You think about fighting games, and of course it's a fighting game. Of course it's you buy it for the one-on-one matches against another opponent live, but there are so many types of people out there. There are so many players. What if somebody looks at ARMS and they say, well, that looks so cool, but I'm really intimidated by playing one-on-one against another opponent. Like, that's super intense. Like, I can't buy this game now. Whereas you look at StarCraft and there's a campaign there, there's 2-on-2, 3-on-3, like one-on-one, if it was just a one-on-one game, it might be too intense and overwhelming for players to hop into and, give a chance. But and Injustice 2, again, I'm intimidated by the ladders. I don't really want to go on one-on-one against other opponents. I'm going to just tackle this multiverse and have fun in this little area of the game. So I think having an avenue for players of all skill sets or wants and values is important.
Sure.
Yeah, I think you're going to get people, you're going to get the outliers by either like having friends, if you're fortunate, like having somebody, like Ben being like, play this. I think you would enjoy this game. You should check it out.
Yeah.
Jones, you should play Overwatch. Or because I don't think like these success stories are going to happen at launch. I think like these types of games or that type of growth within a franchise is going to happen gradually as it grows. And I'll finally give this game a shot and I'll play it. And then a couple hours in, I find out like, oh damn, I can't stop playing this. And so I keep thinking like, when you have those outliers come in, think of a way to keep them there. Think of a way to something like an idea just popped in my head. I don't know if it would work in something like Injustice, but like it'd be neat if there was like a villain versus hero racket where like they were adding up all of the wins that they've progressed, like all the times Catwoman versus Batwoman have won.
Yeah.
And basically, like who is in the lead currently? Like the most people that play as these characters and the most wins that they've had currently, the villains are winning. And it'd be kind of fun. For Honor like dabbled in stuff like this, and like even if I was not engaged in it, like that moment where I'm like, I'm done with Injustice 2, and then I find out about that, like, oh really? Are they? Oh, okay, I'll play. Like any of those like dumb, tiny little things.
Yeah.
They could just be one more reason that's like, I'll stick around this world a little bit more. Because I'm actually affecting it, or like there are some those little dumb meters.
For Honor even has that, but they also have ways to engage the game differently. Again, back to multiplayer. You can do one-on-one arena, super intense, super competitive, high stakes, stressful, or you can get a buddy, do 2-on-2, or the huge Dominion, 5-on-5. I don't need to be insane esports skill level, but I can help contribute with my team, going with a buddy, or maybe sneak in, capture this point. It's just something for everyone.
Even giving me rewards from spectating, just anything, just really just the sky's the limit as far as like, let's just throw something at you for doing that.
Are we ready to move on to emails?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I feel like
HOTTAKE.
Yeah.
Prices of video games. I do appreciate now more than ever, though, that there are all sorts of prices for video games. That's a weird era. Used to be back in the day, $50, pay up.
Yeah.
And then, Limbo. I always go back to Limbo changing the game. Like, a downloadable? Like, wait, it's $15 or $20?
Yeah.
Wait, you just download this game and play this? Like, now it's, there's $5, $10, $15, $20. I see a lot of $40 games. We talked about Get Even being $30. So, it all comes down to developer and marketing.
Yeah.
And that Nintendo tax, though, $60 for ARM.
I think one of the best things about the modern era is so many times I get messages from people being like, I would never give this a chance, but it's $3 on PSN or Steam.
Yeah.
And so you said it was good, so maybe someday I'll play. I like that. I like that games that wouldn't stand a chance otherwise, it's hard to resist at such a low price.
For sure.
Especially if, you can't afford $60 games, which is completely understandable. Our first email comes in from Brandon. He says, "Hey everyone, now that E3 is behind us, I've heard some complaints about and decries about games, specifically for the Sony stable of Spider-Man, God of War, Days Gone, and Detroit Become Human, to name a few. They're being criticized for not having a specific release date, yet in the past, when games such as Uncharted 4, Quantum Break, and Final Fantasy 15 all have been delayed, those were met with such intense criticism. Why? Shouldn't companies use the Bethesda method and announce a date only a few months out when the games are, for the most part, ready? What is your take on how release date announcements are handled today as opposed to only a couple of years ago? Personally, not knowing the release dates for games like Final Fantasy VII Remake, Kingdom Hearts 3, and The Last of Us Part 2 give me confidence in developers that they'll take their time and only put the games out when they're ready, as opposed to the rush and unfinished Mass Effect Andromeda. I apologize for the rant, and if you take my question, thank you very much." So I'm a little... Going through the wording of this email again, I'm a little bit confused. Is he saying that it's okay to, like, it's better to announce something and then not give a date and take your time? Or is he saying you should follow the Bethesda model?
I don't think he gave his stance. He just said, why were they criticizing these games that have no release date versus games that had a release date and got delayed?
Yeah.
So which is better?
The preferred method.
Yeah. I'm taking the cheap and easy way out. There are so many video games that I don't care when you come out because I'm swimming in games right now.
Release dates mean next to nothing
They
to me
mean
anymore.
nothing.
And I feel bad
when the game
because,
shows up.
like,
awesome.
like Bosman does such a good job of Bosman's like, he looks at the headlines a lot more than any of us do. I mean, that's the way he runs, our podcast. And so, like, I hear from Kyle a lot where he's like, yeah, we don't have that release date yet, do we? And I'm like, I don't know. Like when Red Dead got delayed, it was like, Red Dead might be a couple months later. It's like, I've waited 7 years for that game, so whatever,
Right.
Or however long. Yeah, it's considering how much happens every single day in this industry as I get older, as the years go on, that just becomes less and less relevant to me, especially because everything gets delayed now. So it's like kind of more of a consideration than anything. But what I definitely do identify are those companies like Rockstar and Bethesda that definitely do like, we're not going to show up to the party unless we're ready. So like if you hear a delay, like maybe one of those, and then that's about it, and then we'll meet our projection.
I think outside of some cases like Rockstar, the thing that frustrates me about games that are announced and then don't come out forever is the story becomes about the development cycle rather than the game itself.
Sure.
And that gets really irritating, where it feels like you cannot talk about the game without mentioning, like, oh, okay, this is what it went through in development. Here are all the problems. Here's how much it's changed. And it just, like, that stuff becomes such a burden that it colors how you're playing and perceiving the game. And that gets annoying. Whereas, like, I'm thinking about, like, Wolfenstein: The New Colossus, like, by the time... Announced coming out.
Evil
like,
Within announced coming out.
We are just going to be talking about that game and how it plays and what it's like,
sure.
and that's so refreshing. That's so nice.
Yeah, when they announce a game too early, it does bug me.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, wait, but again, it's case-to-case basis, because something like Metroid, the acknowledgement that it's being made is big, because we never knew. But if it's something like, I can't think of an example, but if it's something like...
I mean, Death Stranding. We have no idea when that game's coming out. We know it's going to take forever. We all kind of joke about it. So, like, we've given Kojima this weird pass to just take however long you want. Whereas, like, we wouldn't give that pass to other people. But, like, we do kind of have a mental projection of, like, it's got to be a while. Got it. Final Fantasy VII Remake? Right. Got it. You know? Yeah. And... there's some companies and some developers that just have that of like, you know, I'm good for it. Like, you kind of know how I operate.
Sure.
So yeah, if you have like a company coming out of nowhere that delays their game a couple times, it's like, if I don't have a pedigree to fall back on, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. Mm-hmm. They found us. I don't know how, but they found us, Marty.
I always go back to the most frustrating game of my entire life, The Forest.
Which is never going to come
this
out
game
ever.
has been in early access
somebody brings The
for
Forest
like
once
3
months,
years.
And I just laugh. I just am like, damn, that's right.
It is unacceptable. Like 3 years in early access or whatever the hell it is.
Just don't even release it now.
Why?
Like,
yeah.
We're past that.
Come on.
Horror games have been announced and launched that were kind of based on the ideas you had in The Forest that are now like old. Like,
it's like, sure, you can hop in now. It's early access. There's a ton there, but it's like still, it's early access. Having that early access thing on it.
But the date itself, to me, has nothing to do with that.
Because
it's just how deep is your premise? How much do I have to learn about your game before I need to play it? And how long are you giving me to get that information? That's everything to me. I love that. So that equation, whatever that is, how long you can maintain interest over a certain amount of time, based on how many opportunities you give me to see your game before I play it.
I don't know why you keep picking on The Forest, because there are a lot, like, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds is not a finished game. And that game is getting so much love and attention, and it's really good.
Because it's like it's kind of like a Counter-Strike situation where it's like, all right, round to round, like that bare bones mechanic is enough you need. Whereas something like The Forest, that was sold on the premise of like it has an end kind of thing. Like it has a story. There's a story involved. There's
a mystery to solve.
There's a mystery. There's a progression. I think of Darkest Dungeon Early Access didn't have the Darkest Dungeon.
Oh yeah,
which is a big deal.
Which is a big deal, but it came out relatively soon after that. It wasn't that long of a wait.
So you're saying it's not so... I thought you were just getting hung up on the early access label as a whole, but it's really the type of game and what it's trying to accomplish.
Right.
Okay.
Like if it's a story,
thing.
If it's a story game early access, like I'm way not into it because I don't want to play half the game. And
a game where you're picking up twigs and fighting things you can barely see in a very sparsely detailed forest does not have 5 years of development time to get hype. Like, maybe give me a teaser that'll always be in the back of my head and I'll always be wondering, and then be quiet for 5 entire years and then come back with a big relay. Oh, I remember Forest. Yeah, it's finally happening. Awesome.
I do pick on it. I feel bad, but because they've added so much. I remember they added like houseboats on one weird update, and they've added a ton of stuff over the course of that early access. It's not like they've been sitting on their hands doing nothing, but it's like...
But to me, these are lessons to be learned. Like, I don't rag on people to point fingers and joke.
Sure.
Like, I want other developers to be like, yeah, we were going to announce our game next week. Maybe we shouldn't, just realize, like, it's like you really only have a couple of things to do. Like, I can't remember what somebody brought up, because I used to be way more in tune with this, actually, how many pieces of media a specific campaign would release. and somebody brought up some game, might have been a Ubisoft game because they usually do that, but they were like, oh, they keep releasing trailers every day. And I'm like, do they really? And I went to their YouTube channel. And it's like, oh my God, they do. It was some popular game that I'm like, I'm already convinced I'm going to buy this game.
But at the same time,
you look at the channel, it's just every damn day.
Aside from those leaks, you look at Assassin's Creed Origins was just announced in June and it comes out in October. Like that is, for a massive game, pretty reasonable.
Well, they were kind of, their hands were tied behind their back. That was the kind of, that was it or that nothing. Like, to give people, the right amount of time to be like, oh, I have questions, but not many now because I've known the premise for 2 years. But yeah, that equation fascinates me more than anything else in the video game industry.
When do
you do it? It's why game announcements are so exciting because like, here we go. Now we're in a totally different place now. It's like a comedian walking out on stage and saying that first joke, and now we're all staring at you, and you're like, oh God. And like some people like Rockstar just like don't care. They're just so confident they'll just roll right through it. Doesn't matter. If that leaked, whatever. And like some people just their knees shake and they buckle under the pressure. Or just can't maintain interest that whole time.
Right.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Good question.
Good question. Our next email comes from Marcus. He says the moral cost of free DLC. On the E3 episode, the moral cost of free DLC. On the E3 episode of the Easy Allies podcast, host Kyle Bossman raised the question of free DLC being funded by optional microtransactions. Panelist Daniel Bloodworth replied, this approach is preferable to the old way of splitting the user base with paid content. How far does the permission to go whale hunting extend? Are we okay with companies exploiting psychological manipulation and gambling mechanics to give us free stuff if we know we only get those maps, characters, and skins because somewhere someone is spending more money than he can afford? Or is it easier to enjoy our games guilt-free when we knew every player pitched in equally by paying a set price per expansion?
How would you ever know what was funding what?
Right.
There's no way to know.
But does that anonymity make it even worse? Where, like, it's like, hey, you get everything for free, but somewhere out there, somebody cannot control themselves and is spending way more on useless stuff. Someone is hurting.
Right. All that free stuff the Hearthstone release bin was thanks to you. You helped. Anytime they made that decision, they were like, we got that more back up.
We're avoiding that hole, Jones.
Like, they have a contingency plan. I was like, well, all right, if things go bad, we still got Ben.
It's like the Ben chart. They're like, well, if you apply the Ben chart, you'll see that
our projections change,
It's like me with Infinity sales. Like, he hadn't been at Toys R Us in 3 weeks. I don't.
I'm hoping. I think Gwent just might replace it. Get me off.
So what is the real question exactly? Are we okay if they add stuff to a game because they've sold a bunch of other stuff?
I think the angle is, all right, weighing the pros and cons of both formats. And his argument is paid content. Yes, it splits the user base, those willing to pay and those not willing to pay. But with free content, if everybody gets everything, is that better knowing that they have these microtransactions in there and that you can spend a limitless amount of money on them as opposed to paying just a set amount with traditional DLC?
It's hard because what exactly is the DLC we're talking about? Are we talking about like extra characters?
Sounds like multiplayer.
Maps?
Sounds like a multiplayer thing
Call
because
of
it's
Duty
something
maps?
that other players will be playing on and you're not because you don't have the map.
Yeah, okay.
That sounds like the split with a community, kind of what they're indicating.
I think maybe the perspective for me is, while microtransactions can certainly be psychologically manipulative, and while I don't like that, that's not something I want to advocate. I mean, on some level, I can't control how people function. I don't like it. Like, just because there are really awful people online that harass and others like constantly and incessantly, that doesn't mean I think you should take voice chat out of games or you should take online multiplayer out of games. Like, I get it, and no, I don't want companies to be manipulative, but at the same time, you do have to take personal responsibility.
Yeah. I don't want anyone to get hurt, so I don't want any like games hurting people. But again, like you said, I can't police or father the world of gamers out there. So
I'm also gonna be brand managed just for 5 seconds.
Here we go.
I'd say that like even free content is manipulation. It's like,
sure,
if I'm looking at a game, especially if I'm a known publisher that's released a lot of games, and like, oh, did you hear that whole thing's free? Like, oh, Battlefront 2, all the maps are free in Battlefront 2. they're not making money on that. EA's taking a hit. They are taking a hit on Battlefront 2 because they pissed their fans off with Battlefront 1. And so that is
But they will find other
they
ways
are
to...
investing in morale basically with that free stuff. Like I don't think there's a real strong economic fix for that. We're like, well, we'll see our money back. They're like, we'll see our money back with just sales, because anybody that heard about Battlefront 1 and backed out, anyone that bought Battlefront 1 but didn't get DLC because screw the season pass, like any of that animosity, we're going to do away with by making it free and actually make money on that free content by people just buying the game when they weren't. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times when you get something for free, that is also an investment. Like I'm investing in you being happy. I'm investing in you not being pissed at me or thinking that like a company like EA that gets blamed all the time for just like trying to, make money from you in every single corner that I can. And so you see something like that from a company like that, whoa,
Mm-hmm. But are there loot boxes or anything in Battlefront 2? Do we know this? Are there premier skins?
There's just credits. Yeah, there's just credits in the first game.
There's gotta be some. I don't fully believe it yet. It's Star Wars.
Not convinced. The morale Huber's morale is down.
Down on Battlefront.
But you take games like Injustice 2 or For Honor, where like is that a better or worse or not comparable case to just like, hey, we're going to have extra content, you pay this flat amount, there is nothing else? Is one, I guess, a better moral argument than the other?
It's like I always love when games add stuff. That's always where I come from with DLC. It's, Injustice is adding Sub-Zero. Hopefully they add Watchmen
You
characters.
have to pay for that, too.
Yeah, totally. But they're working on it. You know what I mean? So I'm totally cool if I love something enough to pay that extra money to get it. Like, if Rorschach shows up, I'm there with my wallet. Like, you guys did it. You took the extra mile. You did the research on Watchmen. You made some sick costumes for him, and he has really cool moves. You did the extra work. I'm going to pay up.
It sounds to me kind of like you're saying that the moral argument here is not irrelevant, but lessened because of the quality of the game itself. That you've been convinced that Injustice 2 is worth that investment, so you're okay with the things surrounding it?
Yeah, I guess I'm okay with paying for DLC if I'm passionate about the thing I'm paying for, and if I know that it wasn't DLC that was withheld. Because I think we do live in a different era than, the Lords of Shadow days, where, DLC is the ending of the game, or they took a chapter out of the game that is crucial that you need to pay for. I feel like DLC has gotten better with, you look at CD Projekt Red. Of course I'm going to buy Hearts of Stone. Of course I'm going to buy Blood and Wine.
Yeah.
They started making these things after the game. They put a ton of work and man hours into it. Mm-hmm. I love The Witcher 3. I'm eager to go back into that world and explore and play. So of course I'm cool with spending the cash. It just all depends on what I've heard about it, where my interest level is with the game, what the DLC is. I'm way more eager on like story DLC. I think it's all been muddled too with like loot boxes versus extra characters versus map packs. It's
So really the answer is there's no broad opinion that you can apply to every situation where they're all so different.
Right. Yeah. It's tough for me to hate microtransactions because we are microtransactions. Easy Allies is microtransactions.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
You can absorb Easy Allies content for free. You don't have to pay us anything.
Yep.
You can run that ad blocker on YouTube, and you get there's a way to literally make sure 0 cents come from you to Easy Allies.
Yep.
And still get hours of content, or you can invest on any level that you want. And so I've just granted, it is a small percentage of free-to-play games that I have played where I was like, good job. I felt across the board, I did not feel any kind of, this was not annoying in any way. But man, even just playing 1 or 2 games and seeing it done right and being like, okay, there's a way to do that where, dare I say I am enjoying these microtransactions. Like I'm actually like just like sorting out these currencies is a weird dumb game unto itself. The economy,
right.
It's like playing that against the game and being like, oh, I got good at saving for that, like it is its own bizarre skill if framed that way.
I agree with you.
But man, you play a game that doesn't do it right and it's frustrating.
Right. It's tough because I think there is just this general skepticism that I think is extremely healthy. It is smart for people to question whether or not they're being taken advantage of. That is a quality that you should admire and apply to everything in your life. Not to a paranoid level, but it gets to a point where I think, like, I just see people that are so willing to readily apply it to every situation all the time at the exact same level of intensity, where you're right, Brandon, is you do have those games that burn you. And I think if you've been burned by those games or seen something you love perverted into that, of course you're going to have a tendency to generalize. But yeah, there are absolutely... there are great free-to-play video games out there. We can't deny this entire form when there are things that we can point to that are done so well.
Yeah. I would love to see how much it costs to make a map pack. Because I hate map packs. I think they're the most
like map packs
annoying $15
Here we go.
for a couple maps. Like, you want to talk about splitting your audience, like, it is ridiculous. Maps should be free. Like, first-person shooters especially, live and die by your maps. Like, when you have only a few maps at launch and you start queuing into the same ones over and over, it's like, here we go, the same hallway over and over. It gets so redundant, so repetitive and annoying.
And it's affected the design of the game, where it's like, well, it's okay that they have like 4 maps because they're going to sell 6 DLC packs. And so, yeah, absolutely,
I would
that's
love
a problem.
to see like a hard-hitting documentary. How much does it really cost your studio, Activision, Infinity Ward, whatever it may be? How much did it cost you to make? I want to know so bad. That is like my number one question in the industry. You know, even Battlefield, like, they have their season pass. They add those. How much did it cost to make those? I want to know. And how much are they making?
Yeah.
You know?
I'm sure they'll tell you.
I wish. Keely, help us.
We're going to move on.
No clip. Let's get in there. Come on.
Our last
Call of
email.
Duty map story.
Huber, I pulled this one specifically for you because I knew you were going to be on the panel today.
Nice.
It's from Oscar. I'm not going to read the subject because it'll give too much away.
Okay.
Hey, allies. Last Tuesday at 3 a.m., I was watching the Sony conference and an uncomfortable thought crossed my mind.
Uh-oh.
Sony has plateaued with the Naughty Dog formula.
What?
Cinematic, gritty, and intendedly mature third-person games with seemingly little attention to mechanics. Not only are franchises created with this formula in mind, the Uncharted expansion, Days Gone, The Last of Us 2, but also some franchises that were something completely different have been adapted to check these boxes.
Let me finish. Pretty presumptuous saying Last of Us 2. We know nothing about it. Pretty presumptuous.
Let me finish the email. Have been adapted to check these boxes. God of War. It seems to me that the success of the Naughty Dog franchises have made Sony think that everything that is superficially cinematic, serious, and mature will grant them critical acclaim and sales hits, so they've turned it into a trend. I'm not writing these games off at all. I'm pretty excited for A Way Out and God of War, but I would like us all to be more critical with them instead of giving them a free 8.5 just because we have a cute 3D child companion. Otherwise, we'll be stuck with games based on this formula instead of taking what's good in them, characterization, world building, and using it for different genres. I hate it when I realize media is trying hard to make me feel emotional. Am I overreacting?
We'll get there. Think about the cover-based shooter. Think what Gears did and everybody that jumped on that bandwagon. And we're kind of tired of that now. You know, like, the people are doing fun stuff with that. But I remember, like, what was the... somebody brought it up the other day. I think it was, like, during E3, but, like, the jetpack game where it was, like, verticality was the big thing, where you were, like, covering but up. It's like, imagine that. Imagine, like, playing Gears but, like, vertically. And it was, like, not that much of a sell. It was kind of like the end of that era of that kind of like taking over like other genres. So yeah, it's not something that bothers me. It's not like and I mean, I don't play. That's a difference for me about Uncharted is I don't play Uncharted and I go like, oh, this old gaming chestnut that so many other people can copy. Like, you can't copy Uncharted unless you spend millions of hours making your game. Like, to me, it's not just third person. Like, we've had that since like Tomb Raider. Like,
and calling Uncharted gritty. Like, there's so much comedy in Uncharted. It's an adventure game.
Well, two things. The first thing I want to say, I immediately think of Resident Evil 4 with this conversation because he's saying, oh man, they're taking something that was someone else and applying a new formula to it. And it's that's okay. I like it when people
Heck yeah.
do something different. I
Resident
don't
Evil 7.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily get the impression that the new God of War is a Naughty Dog.
That's the
clone.
first I have ever heard of that.
Like God of War is so different.
I don't
than
understand this fear of trying something else or saying that it's going to get a free 8.5
Yeah.
because it's adapting the style or why it's adapting that style. Like,
There's 6 God of War games.
yeah.
That are so similar.
Yes.
they are.
They're so similar.
It is almost.
And they're great.
They're great.
No one's saying there's anything wrong with that or that they can't do that
Yeah.
again.
But that's almost 6 of the same game. If you
Right,
really,
sure.
if you're gonna be reductive about it.
Yes.
This God of War is doing something different. So I don't understand how they've plateaued. They're taking a huge risk by like shifting this
guess just
franchise
the-
into
the-
something that it.
Right.
The Joel and Ellie vibes maybe just feel similar to Kratos and that kid's whose name I forget.
But I
But
think
even-
the Joel and Ellie stuff only feels there in the most basic way. It's like,
Yeah.
yes, here are 2 characters, one is older, one is younger. I don't get the sense that the dynamic between Joel and Ellie is necessarily anything
Yeah,
like.
we know nothing. We know
like a
legitimately.
dependency, I guess, that like he's now
dependency.
accountable for him. Whereas in the old
Sure.
God of Wars, he was only ever accountable for himself, save for a couple of specific moments.
Sure.
Whereas now this clearly feels like a thread that's going to be here the entire time.
I think that's fair. I think the dependency point is fair, but before the game has come out and we've played it, I don't think it's right to say that this is adhering to The Last
Right.
of Us.
Yeah.
I
don't think we know anything about The Last of Us. I think Uncharted Lost Legacy shouldn't be held accountable as well because it's an expansion of an existing game.
Sure.
So I don't.
I also
and
don't
I'm not going to give. A lot of people say we're Sony fanboys. I don't give anyone a free pass. I'm first and foremost here for video games. I love sequels, but I also love fresh new IPs, fresh takes.
Sure.
You look at Resident Evil 7 being a huge risk, changing the formula entirely, new setting, new characters, new perspective, and I love that. It paid off.
Right.
So. The wording of the question just struck a chord with me because again we know nothing about The Last of Us.
I think also too it's a sentiment to have. I mean, we'll look at the specifics of the wording. It's like I was watching the Sony press conference and I had this fear. It's like where if you're taking what was shown from these games at the press conferences,
Sure.
yeah, if you put them all in a montage, it's a person in third person making their way through an environment and
Right.
navigating hazards and stuff. Where it's like you take something like Last of Us, which was linear, masterfully linear, but linear, as opposed to like a Days Gone, which is clearly like you're on a motorcycle. Like all the demos you've seen are linear, but like I asked those very specific questions when I talked to them. I was like, this doesn't feel like open world. They're like, it is. I'm like, okay. Like, and like this system seems like this, but when I'm playing the game, I can go wherever I want. Like, yeah, wherever you want. Just for the demo, we wanted it to be focused. And so on paper, at one event, possibly all maybe orchestrated by a director of the press conference or a very few, a small council of people who were like, we want these games to look this way in a certain light. We want to choose these shots and these moments from these games. You'd see that in that context, and it all kind of might seem it's following the same style. But I assure you, once you actually sit down and play all of these games, like they'll be very different.
The line that really stuck out to me that I very much disagreed with is seemingly little attention to mechanics. If you just take the Uncharted series and you chart the feel of shooting, I think it has improved.
I don't want to go down this hole.
That's the hole that the question has put us in.
Also, seemingly, like maybe that's kind of what,
Sure.
what he means is that like look kind of what I was saying was like just looking at it for 5 seconds and then looking.
I was
Right.
talking about the shooting in
But I think if you're
Uncharted
going to
hole.
make that claim, you can't just look at it for 5 seconds.
Sure, but maybe the fear is that developers will that they'll be like, okay, these are the biggest games that are being sold
I
right
see.
now.
Interesting.
All I'm going to do is look at it for 5 seconds and then take what I look and try to apply it to my game without knowing more and not really knowing the special sauce.
But can't you kind of smell that though? Because you were talking about Gears of War and all the clones that came after it, where the ones that were mocked were the ones that felt like they were copying the most shallow aspects of Gears of War, where they felt so clearly like ripoffs. Like you can get that sense immediately if something is just perceiving a formula at the most basic level and then applying it, it's pretty nakedly obvious, I would think. I don't necessarily get that sense from Days Gone. I think Days Gone is going out of its way, or seemingly going out of its way, to, like, beyond it being a zombie game and beyond it being serious, that it's going to play very differently.
Yeah, it's so hard to be an original thing nowadays in 2017 because so many types of stories and video games have been explored and have been created.
Yeah.
It's hard to be something new.
Right.
But you can do new creative things within them and tell interesting stories about characters. You know, that's my love and my passion with video games. Like, one of the big pillars is characters, and I love just getting behind a character, whoever that character may be. And,
But don't you agree that these Naughty Dog games would not be as acclaimed as they are if they were just stories, if they were just characters? I mean, I think the way...
Again, that whole band, I'm going to get so riled up when I hear people say that the shooting in Uncharted is subpar. I just don't get it. I don't understand. I think it's best in class. Mm-hmm. You know, you want to talk about third-person cover-based shooters, I think Uncharted 4 is best in class. The way it feels to shoot someone, the way the weapons all have different accuracy. Like, I don't understand what more you could want in a third-person shooter, especially Uncharted 4 with the grappling hook, with a little bit of stealth, the open environments, the encounters are all different and varied. Like, just the moving around each space sometimes are a little more linear.
I think that's it. It's probably why people criticize it, because it is a little loosey-goosey. But to me, that is done in favor of making you feel like someone running around with an AK-47. You're like an actual human being holding that thing in their hands. And so you can't. This is not COD. This is not Counter-Strike.
It's not Gears.
You can't just
down.
stop on a dime and headshot somebody and not move an inch. Like, that's not the way humans work. It might not make the most fun game for your tastes. Mm-hmm. So I think those type of people are coming into Uncharted being like, where's the precision? Wow, this is so sloppy.
And totally, I want to...
Same with Grand Theft Auto. It was because it feels just kind of wishy-washy, but like, I like that because I like that weight. I like that. I like in The Last of Us, the first time you pop out of cover and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. You know, like, it means like when you pull that trigger, you better hit that. Otherwise, you know, you're going to miss that ammo.
Something I wanted to point out, though, I do get that perspective of, does every game need to be gritty? You know, I feel like... since Dark Knight, maybe, I don't know, you know, for the last bunch of years, there has been an emphasis on, you know, gritty and dark tales, and I can see the pushback from a lot of people saying, you know, why does everything need to be so gritty and so intense? Like, I totally understand that if you're sick of that tone and vibe of a game. I could see you being overwhelmed by it. It's like, you know, zombies, same thing. It's like, does every game need to have zombies? Does every game need to be post-apocalyptic? We're in a post-apocalyptic time right now. So I can totally get the sentiment of, like, you know, why don't we, you know, scale it back? That's why I you know, hit myself when I was criticizing Spider-Man, because, you know, sure, there's a ton of superhero movies and superhero games out there, but it's like, you know, it still feels fresh and exciting and fun, you know, in an era of gruff, you know,
I'm not sure
gritty.
I relate to that like, to me, the grit, the forced grit felt way more prevalent when everybody was trying to copy Gears of War and Call of Duty. To me, that felt like a saturation point. Yeah.
But we're on the tail end of it, I feel.
It's frustrating when people are like, oh, I'm sick of this trend, but I refuse to ever play an indie game. That's like, okay, I'm not saying that this applies to this specific person, but when it's like, when you intentionally limit yourself so much, of course you're going to get sick of things more easily. Yeah. That's how it works. If you have a smaller thing to choose from, like...
But at the same time, not everyone likes every type of game.
That's okay. You don't have to like every type of game, but you also have to think about how you're approaching something. If it's like...
I'm just trying to see...
Absolutely.
Trying to see what they're...
It's good to see both sides.
You know, I see it.
Yeah.
Like, of course, I love every type of game. I love grit. I love dark, gritty games. Like, that's my taste. Right. But I can totally, you know, but at the same time, it gets that grit and intensity gets washed away when I play something like Mario or something, you know.
Mm-hmm. I just think of the Ubisoft press conference, and there were definitely Ubisoft press conferences in years past where it's like, this feels like some sort of Assassin's Creed derivative, or Far Cry derivative, or something like that. Whereas, like, this year, I think about Mario and Rabbids. I think of even Skull and Bones. Like, despite us not receiving it super well, that is a crazy naval warfare multiplayer thing. I just
there's always that game. I hope it's Skull and Bones. There's always a game I'm immediately on and then become obsessed.
Sure.
I hope it's Skull and Bones.
I think about South Park: The Fractured But Whole, and I'm not sure right now in this moment I buy that there's a lack of tone going on.
Well, specifically Sony was brought up. Like,
Sony.
it's a fear that we
Sure.
have that Sony is doing it.
Right.
And I want to reiterate that like it might have just been the press conferences and
Sure.
the moments chosen for these games might have all felt kind of one note.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, it's again, like how a game is being sold is very powerful. So like these games might at face value look very similar, and it might just be that. Might be advertising's trying to latch on.
Yeah, then you get stuff like, Ratchet and Clank and Moss, and I know Ratchet is Insomniac, but it's still a Sony exclusive. So
Yeah.
again, you're talking about limiting yourself. I think a lot of indies out there, and there's definitely avenues.
Right.
But I can see the frustration when it comes to the big boys, the big triple A, $100 million. What if every single like summer blockbuster was one tone?
Right.
I could see the frustration.
But I'd be more pissed, yeah. I'd be
we
more
got
pissed if there was
Spider-Man.
like a franchise I liked that adopted some weird gameplay mechanic that everybody started copying, and I was like, wait, but that mechanic was either dumb or phoned in, or it just wasn't my favorite part of that game, or it clearly felt like a gimmick. Whereas, like, again, Uncharted it doesn't feel like a gimmick to me. Like, a lot of these games that he was referencing, I'm like, those are all just fantastic games. So when I see people, like, learning from them and trying to, like, take the way that they tell stories and try to apply that to their franchise and see if we can get to know Kratos a little bit better. They get to like, I think this is one of my favorite things about where God of War is going is that like those moments where he's like, oh, I got it. Kind of looks at the kid like, ugh. And like, I love that. Like, it's like Batman and Robin, like Batman being like, okay, wait, like maybe there's a way to reapproach this thing and not be so angry all the damn time. And like, it seems like the opposite of where that series was going. And so I kind of like that they're shaking stuff up. And I think there are worse games to imitate than Uncharted and Last of Us.
I think where I was coming from about like latching on to everything is the same, or of course it's going to be like this. The implication that I got from this email is when he was talking about giving away a free 8.5. Like of course a Naughty Dog game is going to get an 8.5 because it couldn't not, like there's no possibility of doing it. And I think when you take that mindset, what you're doing is you're really just detracting from the actual achievement. It's like you only believe that these games could get that score because of the company behind them and the style of game, not actually that, no, the person reviewing it legitimately liked it and offered plenty of reasons for why they gave it the score that they did. I think that's such a dangerous mentality of refusing to accept that even if you don't like something, other people can, many other people can, and the reason many other people like it is because there's something there to celebrate.
It's a really easy way to get a rise out of any one of us, I think. It's just kind of like, well, you only scored that because you like it. Like,
Right.
Not a free 8.5.
like when I dropped that, Red Dead, 4.5 stars, people are like, well, of course. Like,
Right.
For me, free 8.5 seems a little light. Free 10.
well, what?
Just
Stop
stoking
him,
the
please.
flames. Just
Please
poking
stop
him.
him. Stop him
Just
before he
poking
gets...
him.
I'm kidding. No, and I think of like Ratchet and Clank. I think of Insomniac.
Right.
That is, sure, Ratchet isn't celebrated as much as Uncharted is, but the quality is still there, and we were still critical on the Ratchet and Clank reboot.
Right.
So
Well, you were.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Kyle was too. Kyle backed me up. Big time.
It's just funny because I think people only look at the immediate future or immediately what's going on, and so when things are good, they just assume that it's always going to be that way. Like I get it. We hear a lot of comments like, "You guys give Nintendo a free pass. You're just Nintendo fanboys. You're not willing to criticize them," and it's like, no, it's just we really like Breath of the Wild a lot. We think it's a good game. And then, now ARMS is coming out, and it's like, no, we have some serious things to say against ARMS. It's just give it a few months. Let things come out. Let's evaluate them as they come.
Yeah.
I'll make fun of Amiibo anytime it's necessary
Sure.
for the good of Easy Allies. Like I'll try to wedge that into any kind of conversations. I have not been on Friend Code yet. I'm very happy to go on Friend Code and say very, very nasty things about the way they've handled their Toys to Life.
Yeah.
Anytime.
I love Amiibo.
Good question. Good way.
Good question.
I don't know if they were trying to rile us up or
Yeah.
combination of also feeling that way.
But it's fun to talk about trends.
Yeah.
Like trends so much is always about business, and it's artistic trends are
We're in
a
the
fun
open
thing to
world
debate.
trend
We're
right
like,
now.
yeah, did that happen?
Right.
Because I'm sure this stuff happens all the time. You know, it's
And-
fun to see moments like that happen at E3, where it's like finally these opportunities for devs to bump into each other at parties and be like, hey man, that game you made last year was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
How did you do that? Like, I'd love to meet with you and talk about stuff. It's how these collaborations are born. And so it's like kind of exciting to see clearly they played that game and like learned some lessons. But yeah,
I like
too much of that can be bad.
that pretty constantly throughout a response to this email, you guys were able to provide the other side and see where they're coming from, which always indicates that it's worth discussing to me when it's not
Absolutely.
just like, oh, this is just completely wrong. It's like, no, I get it. I get where you're coming from.
Especially coming out of that press conference. I get that. Pretty gritty.
Yeah.
Pretty gritty tone for those games. Even Shadow of the Colossus.
If
you
Days
know?
Gone
It's
like adds a kid, like somewhere like in their next trailer, it's like, oh yeah, here's my little cousin I gotta protect.
Sure.
Then I'll be like, wait a minute.
Sure.
But yeah.
He's got an axe.
If you would
Or a
like,
hatchet. He has a hatchet.
Mystical hatchet.
if you would like to send in an email to get us riled up, to Frametrap, the email address is askeasyallies@gmail.com.
Fun question. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
What was the name?
Oscar.
Oscar. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Oscar. Thank you for not holding back, Oscar. That was a very raw opinion that was not edited in any way.
The free 8.5, I feel like, was a little.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right in the gut. They'll twist it a little bit.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's effective. It worked.
It's good. If you want to find more of us, we are Easy Allies. We're people that do this sort of thing all the time, or we just spew opinions about video games. Sometimes we write down those thoughts and make a video. We have a bunch of other podcasts. We're branching out into other things, movies, tabletop campaign that's been going on for a very long time since we started. Anime, all that good stuff. If you want to support us, if you want to throw a little money our way and see more stuff like this, go to patreon.com/easyallies. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Huber, for your insightful opinions, for your enthusiasm.
My pleasure. Love it.
We'll see you next time.